Sounds like yeah.
Excellent news.
Excellent news all the time.
All the time.
Oh wait, I gotta tweet out the links.
Yeah, you should. I mean, but
yeah,
this is the
go.
thing about the podcast circuit is that the election was a very Gen X moment, and there's a lot of like Gen X sort of political and capital figures that are shifting and throwing their weight around. Like I feel it's important to state that like I watched a little bit, and by that I mean I watched most of it at like 1.5 speed of the Joe Rogan Mark Zuckerberg interview. And a lot of it is focusing on like the government forced us to do this. The government forced us to do that, which to some extent, I'm sure
you're board of ethics and HR and
your ethics board and your internal staff of libtards had no problem being vindictive either. But I mean, like and of course there is an important facet to caveat all this by saying like, yeah, there is of course the intelligence community and of course the Biden administration and even during 2020. All of that was to put pressure on like the Hunter Biden laptop story, the coup, everything. And of course, fact checkers and whatnot. But at the same time, like it didn't stop you from donating millions of dollars to Biden in 2024. And it didn't stop you from like throwing your weight around behind Biden in 2020. So it raises the interesting question, like what is with this so-called like chud / like, wigger aesthetic of Mark Zuckerberg's transformation? It's like he's donned off the dorkiness. He caught on some TRT. He put on his own version of the Koofy, and he was like, I'm going to be cool, and I'm going to be seen as like the go-to tech bro guy, as if he's trying to like rehab Facebook, which is almost inhabited by like AI slop, boomers, and Africans. And so it gets really entertaining to watch all this play out, because to me, it's like, no, the vibe shift is merely regulatory capture. We have to get in nice and cozy as the new administration comes in. We got to get in with the vibes and either ensure A, we get a nice tax cut, B, we're getting some sort of advisory board role when it comes to like AI or social media or whatever, but also that like the EU is desperately trying to screw me and I need the support of the government. And I hate going back to Barnbrook and the others, but it's like, man, this like Californian ideology kind of holds up really, really well, whether it's over immigration or running to the state when something doesn't go their way on the international markets. So I think I want to stick by that. I think that it's the podcast circuit is enabling a vibe shift for regulatory capture.
Yeah. I think it was our good friend Watching Spirals that tweeted today about what do you say? Like we've arrived at right coded podcast bro capitalism. What did he exactly say? And I'm like, I don't know what to feel about this one. But anyways,
I don't know if I'm a fan.
Where is it? He says chud capitalism has arrived,
Chud capitalism. I think it was more
back to the early 2000s, really.
It's true.
Yeah. Now we're gonna have pro wrestling. Well, they say WWE is already better. Not that I've watched the product in 15 years. We're going to go back to, there's going to be the X Games. There's going to be like, nudity and TV, and there's, there's going to be a renaissance of chud cult. No, I'm kidding. Anyways, this is Digital Archipelago, the elusive episode 113. Rasta, my woke brothers, I finally bought the Koofy. So, Jew with the immaculate fit. Yeah, I know. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm like woke trash core is really my thing. But anyways, yeah, we have a lot to talk about. We were both busy on the holidays. Yeah, Vulgar Wave. Thank you, Marbly. Exactly. So we have a lot to talk about. Me and Prude, we were busy for the holidays. We wanted to stream, but for a variety of reasons, we couldn't. So hopefully, hopefully you all feel generous after New Year's and Orthodox Christmas. And, let me remind you that the Canadian dollar is worth nothing. We are suffering. Parliament's prorogued. We're going to have to go through some nonsense in 2025. So we'll see what happens. So if you can, for those of you generous Americans out there or generous Europeans, I would much appreciate the Entropy link is I know 5 minutes in we're already e-bagging, but there's a lot to talk about. So, how have you been, Prude? How was everything?
Yeah, well, my holidays have been great. I've worked from home the last 2 days due to crappy weather conditions, so it was nice to not. I'm not cam on. I'm literally in a fleece-lined hoodie and some sweatpants, and my hair is a mess. And I'm drinking a dark roast coffee for the evening. I do want to say thank you very much to the fine parishioner who gave me this cup of coffee. I know that she's listening, so thank you very much for the dark roast. I greatly appreciate it. I'm not a dark roast guy, but I'm a fan. And yeah, so everything was good. And it's funny. This is the second show I'm doing today. I just recorded, and now it's available with our good friend Patrick Casey on Restoring Order. You can go listen to it on his Substack, patrickcasey.com. But yeah, no, I'm happy to be here. It's a good new year. We're 10 days into it, and I feel like so much has happened. But at the same time, it's going to be just like last year, where what were we talking about in January and February of 24? No one remembers. Maybe the Chinese spy balloon, maybe questions about Biden's health, and now here we are. So we'll see how much we remember.
Yeah. We'll see. DSP levels of epic. Come on, guys. It's really hard this month. January always is hard. DSP. You know what's funny? DSP is actually more intelligent than he leads on. I
want someone to write the essay "DSP is smarter than you" in the same style of that old Bush article of like George W. Bush is smarter than you.
Yeah.
And I feel like someone could write that for a good time.
Someone do a super chat to see if Prudent Gio has you read or heard Charles Morris. I've heard of Charles. Well, I don't know if I should admit that on air, but you've read Morris, haven't you, Prudent?
The French writer?
Yeah.
No, I have not actually. I know the name because he's on my list of people to read, but no, I know that I know he was a radical monarchist, and that's about all I know about him.
I think Fleur and Verse in one of his Substacks wrote about Morris. That's where I've heard the name. It was either that or I believe he was widely read by Dominic Venner before Venner did, well, I can't say it in YouTube. I wonder if you see the W word,
ended his things on, no, that's someone else.
Yeah, I think that was someone else. But, yeah, so, but yeah, we're finally in the new year, and already the year has started off pretty crazy. It really takes, I think a few years before a new decade has revealed itself. So the Spy Balloon was 2023. Oh my God.
Was it?
But, I think so. But I noticed like there was this one great tweet by Morgoth.
Oh my God, it was February of 2023.
Man, that felt like yesterday almost. That's crazy.
What were we talking about in 2024?
What were we talking about in January 2024? I forget.
Oh, I looked up February. I'm looking around.
A year ago. No way the tunnels thing was a year ago.
Actually, yeah, the new year did start out with tunnels, if I remember correctly.
That felt like it was in the summer. It felt closer.
Let's see. In January, we also had Steamboat Willie entered public domain.
Oh yeah.
A bunch of BRICS news that kind of disappeared over the night.
Yeah.
Gay marriage got legalized in Estonia. Isn't that depressing?
Oh God. Tequila Sunrise. Do you mean the wrestling move, or do you mean the old Ethan Ralph stream? I think Ralph is quitting, by the way. I think he's finally hollered his last holler, and he didn't hear no bell, but I don't know if
the bell rang for him.
I didn't hear no bell. I mean, I don't know. I have to confirm it. He'll always be back. He's kind of like a cockroach that way. But yeah.
Oh, so yeah. The other thing in January last year was South Africa had sued Israel in The Hague.
That was pretty good.
I'm trying to think of what else that remotely mattered in my mind that came up at that time.
Well, it seems that all of
the Iowa caucuses happened a year ago.
The Iowa caucuses, yeah. No, it seems the significance of 2024 really happened around the summer, with like the whole.
They got overshadowed by the election.
Yeah. No, but like, Trump's assassination. Well, I mean, which one? I mean, there was 3 of them. There was, the whole McDonald's thing, the election, of course. Although the election feels like it was like almost like 1,000 years ago. I don't know. It's very weird. I personally think that, I forget who said it in one of my comments on Twitter, that there was this, like, we exist in this sort of like liminal time between the election and the inauguration. And so people are doing this like weird horse trading speculation where a lot of the most bombastic stuff is being tossed around, like the whole like annexing Canada, annexing Greenland thing, annexing Denmark now. I didn't know that was possible. But is it Denmark or Belgium? I forgot.
It's Denmark that owns
Denmark.
Greenland.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's just I think it's kind of silly, to be honest with you. People are like really seriously discussing these things.
I had to do that earlier with, no offense, Patrick, but like, man, I had to pull up a whole bunch of stuff to talk about this, and I felt like, man, this is, I don't want to say it's a nothing burger, because on one hand, if you wanted to take it seriously, there are reasons to take it seriously. But on the other hand, like, don't we know from the first Trump administration that whenever you tweet out a bunch of meme energy and you get your like MAGA crowd clapping for something, usually some other shady shit is going on in the backside that you don't want the press reporting on. Like, this is what made Trump kind of an effective way to bypass the mainstream media in the first administration, was like CNN would talk about Covfefe or Sean Spicer being a moron, and then all of a sudden like an executive order would get signed and something would happen. So we'll see, right? Like I'm not excited. I'm not excited.
Yeah. President-elect Comancho just threatened to annex the Sentinel Islands. Oh, that's good. That's good, Louis Cachet. No, that's what I mean. I think it's obviously ridiculous, but it is revealed, I think, a debate. And, I have some powerful Leaf mutuals like Fortinax and Black Horse and other mutuals, Horace Finkelstein. Who else am I thinking of in this camp? I mean, I'm not mutuals with Endeavor, but I did do the millennial with Endeavor. By the way, I should have a promo Twitter, like a promo short, but I highly recommend after the stream finding the millennial of the Canadian panel. It was me with Endeavor, Fortinax, Davis Arini, who will be on Content Minded, and who else? It was someone else. Oh, it was what was his name? I forget. Trad something. Throne and Altar. I forget. I'm very sorry if I forget the names, but there was like several people on, and we really got to talking about it. And I think that it does pose an interesting question in terms of like Canadians actually forming an identity, and how Canada, of course, this is Fortinax's thesis, that Canada really does resist a form of like liberalism because of our past as mostly an agrarian loyalist society, that even in its modern manifestation, we go it to the nth degree, that Canada, imagine if we lived in based world, then Canada could easily adopt quote unquote based world values and have it as emphatically enforced as sort of the left side of liberalism. And it would really just take a subtle shift in the engineering of the Canadian managerial state. Not to say that it's going to happen in our lifetimes, but it really does pose a question that the only time, for example, leftoids in Canada, the Leaf Libs, really feel any sort of patriotism is when Donald Trump is making jokes about Trudeau being not anymore because Trudeau resigned, but he's still technically in there till they find a new liberal leader. But making jokes that Trudeau is the governor of Canada, the 51st state. But just, the impracticality of it. Like, do you really want all those Indians and Libs to keep voting Democrat forever? The West will probably vote Republican. Maybe, not the Maritimes. The Maritimes are pretty solidly liberal. Quebec is always a wild card. But I just think that the energy going towards these stupid things is not really serving us. And there are people like Dimes, our good friend. Oh, sorry, Dimes was also on the millennial panel of Canada. I think Dimes, like, not that I agree 100% with him, but he definitely does, him and Fortnex, they definitely kind of do have, they're sorting out this idea that maybe it's kind of an op to get like conservatard Canadians, people that like watch Rebel Media, to get them to sort of like go along with the Trump administration and go along with like a further entrenching of like the right side.
Well, don't
of
you guys have an
neoliberalism.
election later this year?
Well,
In
it
25?
really depends. It depends, Prude. If they find a liberal leader by March, who, from what I've heard from birdies that have told me that it probably will be Mark Carney, then we're probably going to be in for a long haul fight, and there's going to be an election maybe in October. But there could be an election in the summer if the Conservatives really do force through a vote of non-confidence, to which Jagmeet Singh, the leader of the NDP, says that he will shiv Trudeau in the back, the Liberal Party, and he will vote for a vote of non-confidence. So we could get an election sooner, but if they do pick someone like Mark Carney, I wouldn't be surprised if we get an election in October, because unlike America, we do not have set term limits. We do not have set election dates, whereas in America, you know, it's pretty much a ritual that it has to be, you know, the first week, the first Tuesday. Was it the first Tuesday of November? What is it,
for us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the inauguration has to be on the 20th, right?
Well, the inauguration is constitutionally mandated for that date.
Yeah. So we don't have that in Canada. We've had prime ministers that have been there literally for like 20 years. So yeah, which is mind-blowing to Americans, but you know, yeah, I think Mackenzie King was in there 20 years and Wilfrid Laurier was in there for 15 years. So man, that's crazy. So yeah, I think that the whole thing, the problem is that it really kind of does come off as a distraction. Trump wants to annex Canada so he doesn't have to import the H-1Bs. That's a good point, Marley. Yeah. Zuck is base now, and there's nothing you could do about it. Well, yeah, I mean,
sure, okay,
sure, but we'll see. I mean, if YouTube wanted to get rid of censorship, I think that would be the big thing. Because here's the thing, okay? I was thinking about this. What platform has in terms of real world social relevance? Besides, I mean, X is where all the policymakers go. But it's YouTube. YouTube is very important. It's more important in my opinion.
Neil Mohan is the current CEO. Let you think of that what you will. He's taken the place since Wojcicki went down and then died. But he's had the post since 2023. And he was born in Indiana, although that doesn't mean anything. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we're not gonna. Google's not bending the knee anytime soon.
No, Google and YouTube, in my opinion, I'm not just because I'm a lifelong YouTube addict, but Google and YouTube, in my opinion, have way more of a political and cultural importance than even Facebook, even X. I mean, I know Musk wants to engineer X to have more relevance than it does, but I think that, the average person, I mean, I live in a country where people are actually rescinding social media use. Did you know this? The Canadians are actually logging off of social media more than logging on, which is the trend in everywhere else in the world, is that people are logging into social media more. I mean, unfortunately, I hate to say this, I hate to blackpill Prude, but TikTok has more of a relevance to younger people than Facebook.
No, I know.
Yeah.
That's not going away either.
Yeah, that's not going away.
Virtually every other social media, I think with the exception of Twitter, has basically tried to create their own version of TikTok, whether it be Reels, whether it be YouTube Shorts, and Facebook has their own version of it. So, I mean, people will just, that's honestly, and I shouldn't say this to any extent, but I know people in my extended family that they'll do that. They'll just get lost on the Facebook Reels thing, and they're in their 50s or whatever, and it's just
my mother does that.
It's like they just get lost scrolling on the couch on their phone. I'm like, it's like Gen X boomer brain rot, and I'm like, I'm so black pilled every time I witness it happen.
It's like half the videos are AI generated too. Oh my god. Like boomers really are failing the Turing test. Like there's so many, you know.
And you hear the same, like, I guess it's the TikTok ethnically ambiguous AI voice. Everyone knows what I'm talking, like the guy voice for it. It's just like you hear it and you instantly know that you're watching some like text to speech narrated slop, and it's awful. And you know, outside of being on Twitter or writing or doing YouTube or checking my emails, I don't have any social media, and I'd like to keep it that way because most of my interactions are IRL, and I prefer living in that world sometimes.
My favorite one with that voice is there are these like slew of videos where it's like Chinese style, like one room, like cage apartment remodels. Do you know this one?
Yes. Is this the one with like the CGI and then the reinforced
yeah, galvanized steel rods,
steel square
veneer.
reinforced? Yeah.
It's like you can just extend it's like literally like Kowloon walled city. Like you could just extend your apartment. Oh my god. Worth knowing the recent shift in Instagram reels towards edgy right-wing memes noticeable as of late. Thank you, Marbly.
Well, that's good, I hope.
Yeah, I've seen like Landshark tweets on Instagram. Apparently people
congratulations, Landshark, for ruining the word one-shotted.
Yeah. And Gigafry.
And Gigafried.
Yeah.
It's over.
I've seen, apparently there's been Orc Brand super viral reels with Orc Brand tweets on Instagram. So
his Orc Brand on like Instagram or TikTok, because I feel like his rants need to go to that place.
Well, he used to post on Facebook. I have him on Facebook. But he stopped posting on Facebook. I interviewed Orc Brand recently for my series I want to do on House of Leaves. So hopefully I can get that Generate Reviews series going along with a lot of the paid reviews. I'm almost done the Bell Jar. And then I have to do, who do I have to do? Sexy Beast, 2001, although I'm not going to talk, because everyone's talked 2001 to death, right? Then Naked, which is a great indie British film, which I think is very comparable to the Bukowski film. What's it called? Barfly. You ever watch Barfly, Prude?
No.
It's a great film. It's with Mickey Rourke when he's younger. How did House of Leaves suck? It's because you didn't get it, bro. Maddie, you didn't get it. That's why. I'm sorry. I shouldn't bash people, for their taste. House of Sneeds. Yeah, there you go. House of Sneeds. But no, I want to interview a bunch of people. I think there's a few other people that I'm going to interview. Probably Insect Bra. Who else? Jay Burden, but Jay Burden, he doesn't have a lot of time recently. Young Mickey Rourke getting beaten up. Yeah, exactly. He's like a drunk Bukowski figure that gets beat up in bar fights for money. So it's a great film. It's with what's her name? Faye Dunaway. It's with Faye Dunaway. It's a great film, but it's very comparable to this British film called Naked, where it's about like this nihilist, homeless guy that goes around talking about life, dropping truth nukes, man. But yeah, it's I got super bored because of the tattoo artist character. No, but like here's the thing. Johnny Truant's the linchpin of House of Leaves. You gotta pay attention to Johnny Truant's arc. But anyways, so
I don't think I've ever read or seen House of Leaves.
Oh man, it's amazing.
I think I'm okay.
Yeah, I think you'd like it, Prude.
House of Leaves.
Yeah.
All right, I'll go get a copy. Ergodic literature. What the fuck does that mean?
Yeah, you'll see. It's pretty trippy.
Cybertext perspectives on ergodic literature to describe literature in which non-trivial effort is required for the reader to traverse the text.
Well, it's like Infinite Jest in that way.
Oh, well, examples of this. Okay, are there any books in here that I have read? Pale Fire. Okay.
Yep.
Well, I've read that.
By Nabokov.
1,000 plateaus. I guess that works. Why not? Sure.
Does that really work as literature? I don't know. That's kind of...
1,000 plateaus is written as a rhizome, that is, allowing immediate connections between any of its points. Because of its rhizomatic structure or traditional summary of theses and arguments, 1,000 plateaus is either downright impossible or, at best, would be too much complex to attempt in an encyclopedia article. Oh, according to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. Oh, I refuse to believe that, but okay.
Yeah.
I guess I'll order a copy of this. But I actually now want to go read this damn text, Cybertext, Perspectives on Ergodic Literature. I'm going to go.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
No, yeah.
It's 700 pages, Fraser, but a lot of it, like, it's a concrete writing in a lot of it. So, like, there are some pages with only, like, a few words in it. So don't be intimidated by 700 pages. Yeah. But anyways, yeah, there's been a lot of stuff going on since our 2-week absence.
Has it only been 2 weeks? It feels so much longer than that.
It feels longer.
It really does. It's been too long. Been too long.
Yeah.
Between the news and then, I was thinking about it last week. I was like, wow, good thing we kind of stopped with all this like Trudeau stuff stepping down. And then that kind of got overshadowed with all the fires, and then that kind of we missed all the movie discourse. Although I dabbled in a little bit of it. What a fun time!
What movie discourse? Nosferatu.
Yeah, I watched that. I watched a bunch of movies over my.
Is it on Amazon Prime or no?
Nosferatu, the original silent film is, but not the Eggers movie that just came out. No, that's still in theaters.
I like the 60s one, where he like goes in the basement. It's got like all those records of the house, of the mansion.
I don't think I've seen that one. I've seen Herzog's, I've seen the silent film, and I've seen Eggers. And this is Eggers' weakest movie.
Yeah, it is?
I think it's his weakest film. That's just my personal... Prude's mirror background is evil. Oh, is it backwards for you guys?
No, it's not backwards. I don't think.
Oh, okay. I was like, it is on the Restoring Order one because it came out mirrored on the screen, and then I was like, oh, let me just like reverse it on my end, and then it came out backwards. Then it was just like,
oh man,
very frustrating.
Did you talk about the fires on Restoring Order?
Oh, it is backwards according to Tweet Jack and Enthusiast. We'll fix that.
Weird, I can't see it backwards.
I can here. While we're doing all these things.
See. Yeah, it is backwards. Yeah, it says leave.
Yeah, okay, we fixed that. We fixed that. I think.
Heavily. But did you talk about the fires with Patrick?
Yeah, we talked about the California fires. I mean, a lot of it I think is just primarily based on mismanagement.
Yeah.
A lot evil, Prude. Yes, we are evil. But no, we did that, and what's the word I'm looking for? A lot of this is just petty incompetence, and Karen Bass slashing $17 million from the budget. There was a leaked memo where she wanted to cut $50 million, and of course, environmentalism in America just means like we're gonna go down every single route that we can, which tells us that we got to give money to our patrons. We have to give money to all of our beneficiaries. This is the only way, the only thing that matters. And so, yeah, this is the way that we have to go. And now it's backwards on my screen. But don't worry, we'll flip that horizontal. Now we're back to normal.
There you go.
There we go. So overall, though, like it's just the fires are tragic. It's still a small portion of LA County, but at the same time, it's incredibly frustrating and upsetting because at the end of the day, what you have to deal with in this instance is that millions of dollars get sent to like awareness groups, environmental lawsuits prevent things, but also California doesn't do any actual prophylactic measures and preventative measures for forest fires and wildlife management. So you can get taxpayer funded PrEP, which is prophylaxis, for exposure to HIV/AIDS, but heaven forbid you do the bare minimum to prevent, millions of dollars in devastation. And a lot of the museums that have survived because they did their own PrEP, nothing from the government themselves. And I know it's kind of, improper comparisons, but it's just like the same thing with the fires in Hawaii. Like only those who disobeyed survived. And it's the same thing here. Those who actually disobeyed and prepared themselves accordingly, they managed to save their property and their homes.
Yeah. But like, what did Ralph dude say? The fire is different from previous ones because of the scale of damage. Actually, dense populated neighborhoods full of rich people. I know like a lot of people in our spheres are posting like sadism over it, but
there's a lot of normie sadism because it's California and it's Los Angeles County.
Yeah. I mean, but I think like I think I said this, that two things can be true at the same time. Like obviously, no one's going to cry over rich celebrities losing their homes. And obviously California has been ground zero for some of the most subversive trends ever. But at the same time, a lot of innocent people are losing their lives and losing their homes. And I think that and the fact that it probably is arson as well. Some, schizo illegal or whoever that they arrested. That's another thing too. So yeah, I know, close your heart to pity, but I mean, I just think that, yeah, I mean, there's obviously two things can be true at the same time. I mean, just the fact that California was at one point incredibly, still is economically, but not for the average person, but was at one point incredibly prosperous, is one of the most beautiful states, and is, is a form of very significant. It is such a shame that mismanagement and their own political class and their own politics have really condemned them to whole swaths of California being a slum. And, I think that it's a shame. You should lament these things. But at the same time, I understand when people, obviously are posting that, a lot of celebrities are trying, well, I don't want to say too much on YouTube, but you know what I mean. So yeah, I think that I obviously am sitting on the fence in this one, but I don't really go out of my way to do like a moral plea against people who feel disenfranchised by by California as a whole. So, yeah. I think that obviously there is a point to closing your heart to pity, but yeah, I do feel bad for just normal people that are being affected by it. But
yeah, I mean, it's certainly it almost feels as if the leopards aren't supposed to eat my face kind of scenario. And on one hand, don't get me wrong, is there some really kino footage of watching the hills burn and smoke billow by the Hollywood
the red
sign?
sky, I could paint
like
that.
They're like, what could this possibly mean? What is God telling us in this situation? I'm not one to really discern what that message might be, but I have some ideas. However, at the end of the day, like it is hard to have sympathy for like rich, multimillionaire fuckers who are going to watch their property burn down. However, the long-term political ramifications of this is that like the Biden administration, as like a last coup de grace in the last 5 days the last 10 days they have in office, is basically to say you have unlimited federal dollars for the next 6 months. Really, and this is predicate on really just Newsom or anyone in California that wants to have a political future. You have to rebuild in 6 months. You have 6 months to contain the fires and start rebuilding and make some noticeable progress. Are you capable of doing that? Fuck no. We both know that they're not. However, they're going to try their damnedest to, because
Erdogan had a better time building half of Turkey than they would.
Yeah, like if you want to rebuild the richest parts of LA and to convince people to come back, because this again, wealthy part of LA, wealthy part of your tax base. You think they're going to come back? No.
Nope.
No.
They're going to.
What does that mean for LA County? What does that mean for a major portion of your tax base? This does give Trump some leverage in 6 months when it comes to negotiating federal dollars, and I think that you should do. I think it should just be like dollars for deportations. If you can get federal aid if you help the feds in deportation operations. You won't get a bailout unless you kick Pedro out. But I don't think that'll happen either. It's just a playful little meme. But it is, and here we go. And here's where we are.
Yeah. It was mostly in LA, right? It wasn't.
Yeah, it's in Los Angeles County.
Okay, yeah. My cousin lives in San Francisco. And I know people that live in California, and the degree of mismanagement in LA County in particular is incredible. And I think that that's another thing too. I said this because there was this tweet by Do you know Cy Swoon, the woman writer? Of course, you probably don't, Prue. What am I asking? She wrote that book.
For once, I feel almost offended by that, but go on, Gio.
No, but you know what I mean, like, because you block all women. So,
that is true. I do.
You know that she wrote that book. It's called something alchemy. Oh God, what's it called?
It's not something I would have read.
I actually ordered it. What is? Let me look at it, because she was getting in trouble because of all these ironoids that were going after her for this take about climate change. And let me see, what's it called?
Was it a based take?
Something shapeshifter.
Okay. Well, definitely not something I'm going to be reading.
Notes on Shapeshifting. That's the book. She wrote Notes on Shapeshifting. Ever heard of it, Prude?
No.
Well, it's kind of like the e-girl literature. It's kind of like Honor Levy type of stuff.
Oh, then definitely no.
Well, I think Gabe has heard of it. But she wrote this book.
Well, that's because Gabe wants to marry an e-girl one day.
Yeah, and hopefully one day he will. But it became immensely popular, and I actually bought a copy. I was thinking of buying a copy when it first came out, but I bit the bullet and bought it in solidarity for her. She had this take about the sort of unquestionable, almost near metaphysical nature of how climate change has been the knee-jerk response by the chattering classes and by the lib media order. And politicians like Bernie Sanders, what was Sam Hyde call him? Bernie, Bernie, save me. So she was all the most terrible people, like Noah Colwyn, like those people, like just hideous, spiteful mutants like Noah Colwyn. They all attacked her for it, saying you're stupid and you're dime square and you're you don't know what you're talking about. You're a terrible writer, But she had a point in the sense that, barring the debate on if AGP is real, right? Anthropogenic global warming. Now, I think there's some degree, obviously, of anthropogenic global warming, but to the extent of the way that it's become a secular form of apocalypticism, the fact that this fire is very easily caused by a few things. It's caused by the incredible demographic situation of California, given who actually allegedly set the fires. And there's example, even a week before, there were TikTok videos of people in California seeing these vagrants burning stuff in the forest, and they have all those eucalyptus trees that go up like a tinderbox. And of course, the mismanagement of the managerial class in California. As you know, Prude, California is run by, I believe, 9 powerful families. So it's a very convenient way to sweep under the rug the things that these people have helped cause by blaming this nebulous, apocalyptic, almost metaphysical entity called, climate change or whatever. Anthropogenic global warming.
Well, you have to blame if there's no Republican in immediate vicinity, and I know that Jarvis guy had a great tweet about this, but if you can't blame a nearby Republican, and you can't because it's a Democratic supermajority state in California, so they've been blaming Trump for quote unquote politicizing this, although he was quote unquote politicizing this long before the election. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was calling this out back in 2019. He was calling this out during the entirety of the Biden administration. He called this out on the Joe Rogan interview several months ago. So it's not like any of this is new. And you have Karen Bass, where we have literal documentation of you wanting to defund the LA Fire Department even more than you already did in terms of budget slashing. And all these articles about how the LA Fire Department is too straight, white, and male despite efforts to diversify. It's hard to be a little sympathetic here. It's on you. So what's the scapegoat? Well, it goes to liberal, it's liberal Christian eschatological reasoning, which is climate change is coming. Climate change is the answer. And so that becomes the non-Christian eschatology of a once Christianized California that liberals will refer to. And it is sort of the metaphysical out of the material that they sort of derive this from. That yes, man does have an impact on climate. No one's going to really debate that. We know how that's done. But also that you guys don't do anything to actually conserve or protect the environment or make yourselves more prepared. As I said on Pat's show earlier today, you guys know when these winds come in. You guys know how the seasons go. You know how wild California is. I get it. You want these things to be mainly in the exurbs. You want these things to affect the lower classes and the poors. And it's like, yeah, so you got to kind of eat shit for a little bit. But at the same time, all of this was in your power. But environmentalism as a great religious, money laundering scheme, you have to give millions to your friends. You have to give sinecures to your NGO buddies with tax breaks and partnerships and grants and RFPs and the rest. And so, yeah, we get to watch California burn, and we get to watch one of the richest parts of the California tax base flee in terror. People die. And we get to witness that the question of sovereignty in America, again, kind of gets questioned, because what's happening now? Allegations of arsonists that are linked to gangs and linked to the cartels are all out and about and abounds. How much of that is true, I don't know. But it raises the important question, like, you're telling me you can't just like bring the National Guard in and put these guys down? Like, you can't just say contact front, cartel looting? Sorry, like, the one state that you could easily get away with that shit would be in California, because I don't think anyone's going to care if a gangbanger gets put down by a National Guardsman, especially as like the place burns and people are watching the looters. And as we saw with the migrant thing in New York and in other places, like, turns out you can be all hoity-toity about your moralism, but the moment that these disgusting people come up here and try to live with you, you don't want them. Nobody does. But here we are. But here we are.
No, exactly. I mean, but that's the thing. It is very funny how they're still like harping on the climate change thing, because by definition, it kind of is like a terminating. Like, in terms of praxis, it's a terminating political issue, unless you're fully willing to commit to a total degrowth, agenda. And it's only the West that has to do it, by the way. Not, China and India with their rivers of pollution and their, cancer industrial sectors. It's only us, right? It's sort of like Terence McKenna, where he said, like, it's very easy to convince Western white women to not have children, and the impact of a white child is more than any African child. Like, he literally said that, by the way, for all you people that are McKenna heads. Maybe Marcel Dumas is a little bit right about the psychedelic movement intersecting with the right wing. But, so it's sort of like that same thing of, like, unless you're willing to actually commit to a radical ecology, how many carbon credits can really revamp the world global climate trends? I don't know. So it just seems like it's the solution to mainstream environmentalism. And this is something that Derek Jensen says. The only solution is just more palliatives. It's more like bureaucratic nonsense. That's always the thing. It's not like real action. It's not like a real restructuring of people's ways of life. It's always like just some kind of bureaucratic scheme that only empower the worst people imaginable. That's basically what mainstream environmentalism has been for like 50 years now. So, yeah, I mean, I still have that Pine Tree Twitter, like Matthew said today, he's like, Gio's like one of the last soldiers in the Japanese jungle, right? Like, I still got that Pine Tree spirit in me, you know what I mean? 2017 Dogme. But I don't know. I know that's unfashionable now, the whole Pine Tree thing. But not that I endorse any of the terror wave stuff. I do not endorse that. But no, I mean, I still have an ecological consciousness, obviously. I just think that mainstream environment, it's true what Borzi said many years ago. And I think he got this from Petty Linkola, that mainstream environmentalism is an anti-human thing. It's not about preserving the sort of grandness of humanity on the earth. It's really like just this nihilism, really. It's cosmic pessimism. It's this extinction rebellion. And even though people, they like to make this like esoteric argument around like, well, they're appropriating ancient pagan symbolism and stuff like that. That's just a foil for the dance party. You know what I mean, Prude?
Mm-hmm.
It's not real. Like, to them, it's not real. I mean, there may be some real like chthonic forces going on, but when it comes down to the symbolism of, like, remember the red women? I think it was like in 2019. I forget the first Extinction Rebellion, but they had like the red dressed women, and
yes,
they had all this pagan symbolism. That's just a LARP to them. You know what I mean? Like, these people are rootless cosmopolitans at the end of the day. They're not even like real pagans, No.
It's literally just an accoutrement to just say screw you to dad. Like, all the shit's funded by the state, or funded, or if not endorsed and tacitly, subsidized.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you that the actual pagans that Gio and I know would look at that and be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, exactly. But a lot of real paganism is just a pretext for X parties too, though. Well, in the 60s, a lot of the New Age cults were basically just a bunch of expats, trying to get women. But, don't look into like the sordid history of these New Age cults, right? These, I think there was an Adam Curtis documentary that my good friend and Julius clipped on Twitter a while ago. What was that one? Was it the Century of the Self?
I think so.
Yeah, that talked about like the New Age.
I have not watched a lot of Adam Curtis documentaries. I've seen that one, but it's been a hot minute.
Yeah. But no, Extinction Rebellion, that's what I mean. That's the difference with the mainstream environmentalism and any, thinkers that are like radically out there, whether you agree with it or not, so blaming climate change is obviously stupid, and it's just more excuse for decay, really.
Well, it's excuse to launder more money and to throw your hands up when your NGO sinecure ran. And of course, like, it does not help that it is like the embodiment of every progressive corpo structure of like a failing DEI-filled institution. It's just like straight white male governor having to deal with a fat lesbian black fire chief or something like that, and then at the same time, your mayor of Los Angeles, who tweeted back in 2021, mind you, about Ted Cruz going on vacation during the Texas snow freeze, even though he couldn't do anything about it because that's a state issue, not a federal one. And of course, but optics look bad. But of course, she's in Ghana for like a wedding of the incoming president of Ghana, and I don't know if it's because she's Ghanaian herself. She doesn't look Ghanaian, but like it's just like, what world do I live in where this is it's the perfect picture of everything wrong with like corporate Memphis progressivism.
Corporate Memphis progressivism. Oh, that's amazing. That's such a soiletial, 2010s thing. Chris Hassler says, Gio, you should write a book similar to Hegel, Project of Broad Strokes, great attempt to articulate meaning and significance of all human experience. Well, not all human experience, but I have written a book about art criticism and the work of art in the 21st century, which hopefully will be coming out this year. So, look forward to that. Do we want to talk about the work debate before we get into the other news that we missed?
Is this the thing going on between Mimetic Sisyphus and Solion?
Yeah.
I've seen bits and pieces of it. On one hand, I get where Mimetic's coming from, but I would appreciate Mimetic's position if it was going to be impossible for me to buy a house until I'm 50.
Yeah, it's true.
So I get both sides. I'm leaning towards Solion in this one solely because the conditions of how bad things have gotten make the boomer mindset of about work awful. There is a genuine this is the thing, and if you read, because this is a conversation Charlemagne and I had a couple of we both came to a very similar conclusion about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, where we were both reading George Fitzhugh, and everyone kind of knows George Fitzhugh because his book has been republished by Imperium Press on sociology of the South or the failure of a free society, which you can buy. And if you want, you can get the whole damn thing. A lot of people like to read it because it's like, ooh, it's a position on slavery and the defense of it. But really, Fitzhugh's argument, you can almost call it like proto-Marxist, or and some would say it's like just where like the modern day anti-work argument kind of comes from. Ironically, is that if we were to like free slave, if like the argument he makes is like to free slaves, all that they're going to become are slaves in a worse condition under the industrialists and the free traders of the North. And he says on a humanitarian level, he argues that that's kind of fundamentally wrong. because at least with us, there's a paternalistic relationship to taking care of these people. And at the same time, like they live a better quality of life than you probably would with some of the immigrants that live in the North. And to free them, like that fundamentally means that they're going to be subject to a worse kind of slavery than anything that we've ever done to them. And you might think of that and be like, well, there's some pretty bad things with like American chattel slavery.
It is a pro-slavery polemic.
And it's a pro-slavery, and you're like, it's a pro-slavery polemic, and I mean that's its own issue, and we don't have to debate that today. But the point being that there's a very fundamental.
Slavery was a human constant throughout all.
Yeah, it's a human constant throughout history.
Yeah.
And it's only
indentured servitude. Yeah.
Well, indentured servitude at least had the promise to like poor European whites that there was a chance to get out of it, and you could buy your freedom.
Yeah.
And I mean that was attempted in parts of the North as well, mainly with.
Well, even Louisiana was much different. They had more freedoms on average than in other parts of the South because of the French influence.
And then the de facto, segregation after the war anyways. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
The uncomfortable truth is like the greatest period of like Black economic growth and cultural development is from 1865 to 1965. Yeah. And then after that, the greatest amount of cultural genocide that you can imagine takes place from the 60s onward to today.
Pretty much.
The comparison of like the Black middle class, Black education, and Black wealth is awful today. And then if you go back 70 years or even 100 years, it's much better. And you're just like, so I don't say that to be like, I don't say that in the sympathetic voice. I say that as like, there's a great template for how to destroy a culture and a great template for how to destroy a people. And what happened to them is happening virtually everywhere else, including to a lot of, American whites as well. And it's just like, there's a model that's being played out here. And I think it's important to study how that works. And of course,
Lyndon B. Johnson truly was a hideous monster.
Well, and I mean, a lot of the things that LBJ is implementing were also implemented in like private, smaller, and local scales in various cities and governments prior to. LBJ is just sort of like the nail in the coffin in a lot of ways. But I mean, there was a lot of stuff that was happening in the decades prior that, of course, are instigated by some nefarious groups and organizations. If you're interested, I'd highly recommend reading Murray Friedman's What Went Wrong, if you're interested in more on that issue, or Harold Saltzman's Race War in High School. But it's like, so these things are continuing on. It's pretty bad. And but anyways, the thing about George Fitzhugh, to go back to that real quick, just with respect to the book, is that there's almost this kind of like, r/anti-work argument in it. It's just like, well, why would they do anything then? Why would they would rather choose to be enslaved to us than to you? And if we're going to encourage this kind of system to come down here to the South, it's fundamentally at odds with our culture, fundamentally at odds with the people. And like, why would I bother working then if it's not for me?
Yeah.
And so I kind of see traces of that in this little spat back and forth between Twitter people that I'm aware of.
Yeah. Like, here's
but again, I overall, to me, it's like the material conditions, and this sounds so Marxist, but it's like I work full time, I do this, I do some other work on the side for a guy that I know locally to do some like accounting work. It's like, for all intents and purposes, I work 3 jobs, although I don't really consider this a job. I consider this fun. On top of the fact that I'm like the parish treasurer at my church, so it's like I got to manage a lot of money, and I don't make a lot of money to begin with. So it's just like, on one hand, I get it, but also I'm pretty comfortable. I guess I have that sort of Christian disposition to, not want to be super wealthy, but also that I think that the material standard of living of my parents or my grandparents is unattainable to me. And we read all those articles growing up that millennials would be the generation that for the first time in Western history or in American history have it worse than their parents. It's like, I would be mad as hell. And I should want to rebel against the system. And so I get to see that. But there's a difference, I think, between maybe the soillennial, anti-work versus like, no, there's something really wrong with this. And I think that
heroic aristocratic anti-work.
Well, I mean, yes, but no. But like, I think there's a difference between like, I think like we've psyoped ourselves, and that part of this is like just like conservative inks tendrils on all things on the right. Is just like, we've memed ourselves and saying, well, that's Marxism, and you want to be a Marxist, do you? And it's like, I hate to break it to you, but like Marx is not wrong about everything.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I have to adopt his solutions. I don't think a proletariat revolution or a classist society are ever going to be possible, because I believe in natural hierarchy, and I believe that there are hierarchies based on, you know, condition, class, breed, stock, etc. Like everything about our existence, from our genes to our environment to how we enculturate ourselves, our religion, all that plays a role in how we're going to be seen as contributing members of society. And that's never going to go away. Hierarchy will never be destroyed until all of us are dead. And that day's not going to come. It hasn't happened yet, so we have to live with it. So I think that there's a difference between like the Twitter soillennial anti-work guy on Reddit versus like acknowledging that there is some really fucked up in economic conditions that have prevented us from attaining the same degree of basic creature comforts and standard of living as our parents. Now, a lot of that has to do with, you know, regulatory capture. A lot of that has to do with immigration. I mean, immigration's the hugest one with globalization as well, and that we've watched for the last like 50 years the United States fund and subsidize and industrialize its greatest rivals that now take advantage of us day in and day out. So it's like, yeah, I'm mad as hell, and I want like a nationalist answer to that, and there clearly is one. It just needs to be pursued.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I have a lot of thoughts about this. Yeah, I mean, you'd be splitting feathers if you heard this. Well, I mean, technically, having your stepdaughter with an OF, that's kind of labor, right? So, but, you know.
I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole.
No, it's not. Well, I will make an exception for doxers. That's the only reason I talk about it in the TL. But, no, I have a lot of thoughts on this. Okay, so first of all, let me preface by saying that everyone involved I am mutuals with and I am friends with. I'm okay. I haven't talked to Mimetic Sisyphus that much, but we are mutuals, and so I don't really like to bash mutuals. But you know, I'm friends with Measured Head, Solion, Kunk especially is a good friend of mine. So I understand their perspective of a sort of like pro-youth, pro-sensitive young man polemic, where the sensitive young man is oppressed by the conditions around them, and that sort of the way, I mean, I'm saying this as a constructive criticism. I don't think that maybe Mimetic Sisyphus really meant this, but it does come off as sounding like, you know, being comfortable with the sort of Sigma grind set, you know, be the best you can, present conditions that are inherently structured against even what our forefathers would have dealt with, right? So here's some tweets that were replying to Medic. So Medic says that, yeah, man, it's not society. If you're not a poisonous attitude you've adopted, going and thinking you never do better than scrape by, and you're going to never do better than scrape by. Where is your joie de vivre, your Aryan spirit, your vril, your fight, defeated before you even tried? And so this is replying to to traditional, what's his name? He's a follower of mine, Trad Harry Kim, who says that he's not objecting to having to participate in his own survival. He's objecting to merely survive being the absolute best that the vast majority of people can now expect to achieve. You're being deliberately dense when you make the conflation. And so this is what Ray Measured Head, who's a great account, by the way, not to say that Mimetic Sisyphus is a great account as well. So again, I'm just summarizing blow for blow, play by play, like I'm being a hockey commentator. Like, you know, Austin Matthews going to do the Michigan. He's going around. He passed it to Mitch Marner. You know, but he's being blocked by the Carolina Hurricanes defense. Using the phrase. So this is what Ray Measured Head said. Using the phrase Aryan spirit or vril to describe the act of being a productive office worker cockroach is so funny. He knows that a pull yourself up by your bootstraps pitch is pathetic in our day and age and out of touch, so he's trying to coach it in epic right-wing Twitter language. So, I mean, that's a bit harsh. And, of course, Solion called him a spiritual slave and all this stuff. And I'm going to kick Donald Trump Gaming for being a Habs fan right now. No, I'm kidding. Do not kick him. He's a good friend of the show, Donald Trump Gaming. But how dare you support the Senators? You know who is a great game you should watch? There's on YouTube. Look up here, Donald Trump Gaming. Look up the Buffalo Sabres versus the Senators in 1996. and the Buffalo Sabres, they just like they just beat the piss out of the Senators. That was great. But anyways, that was because they had guys on the team like Rob Ray and Boughner, the boogeyman. Anyways, I'm getting distracted by hockey. I'm getting distracted. So I think that the polemic that people are throwing down at Medic Sisyphus, I tend to agree with more because, it does kind of sound like the old conservative lingo. And I do think that there are a number of conditions that work against, young people in particular. And a lot of these newer, like Twitter Zoomers on the E-right, they do, like, especially Solian talks about health and vitality and youth, especially, and how if you are contributing to a fundamentally alien system and you're thriving in that, incredibly destructive system that is destroying our civilization, destroying our peoples and so forth, then, you do have to question. I mean, but at the same time, there is a question of survival. Now, what I said on Twitter, I know this is a long rant. I'll get to your take. I'm sorry, Prue, but one last thing would be, ironically enough, I think Hannah Arendt's scheme, which is kind of Marxist, but she is a liberal still. She's not really a Marxist. But she had a great schema in the book. She talks a little bit about it in Life of Mind, but it's more so in The Human Condition, her book, The Human Condition, where she talks about the difference between labor and work value, right? Labor is basically bugman life. It's being an office wagey in a cagey filled with ragey. It's work that does not generate value to yourself or to your community. It's merely the product of modern capital, more or less, right? But work is something akin to what even the Marxists would talk about with, what would they call it? I mean, they call it many things like species being, but they would say non-alienated labor or labor that is owed to you. Now, I think that the whole like materialist view of like excess labor is obviously crap because like, of course, like, labor-based economy has so many flaws. You don't have to be like Murray Rothbard to point it out, right? But when it comes to actually owning or like physically manifesting wealth or a product or generating something that you create, that is what Hannah Arendt means by work. It is something connected to you. It is like a guild, it is like a trade of old. It's something that your forefathers did, or it's something that you are doing anew, right? So that's what Hannah Arendt said. And she said that work is more important because it gives you a space of dwelling. Because in Life of the Mind, she uses a lot of Heideggerian language, right? In Human Condition, right? You dwell in your work, not in labor. And of course, we know why she used a lot of Heideggerian language. Because she was kind of sleeping with him at the time. But, still, like, she got through osmosis the Heideggerian language. So, as much as I disagree with a lot of R&B...
Hegelian dialectic through microchimerism.
Microchimerism, yeah. No, but, like, I do think, as much as I disagree with her being a libtard, like, she was genuinely brilliant as a scholar. So, I think when you use Heidegger and you use the language that Hannah Arendt was employing, and you sort of like venture away from like the stupid excesses of Marxism, that could really, I think, bring clarity to more of like a modern right-wing perspective on labor, on work. And I think that the conservative establishment, unfortunately in America, has really like polluted that Protestant work ethic, thesis of Weber. Because Weber meant it as a lament. He didn't mean it like as a, you know what I mean? Like it was more nuanced than what people present the Protestant work ethic as. But unfortunately in America, you do have this like, I shouldn't say that. Because America, as much as people say that America values work and like meaningless work or whatever, there still is like an outlet of creativity and like, maybe not as excessively as us Mediterraneans, right? That, ventures into laziness or whatever. But it's very different than, say, like the Indian subcontinent or the Chinese, where like work or like education is this very like mass produced, very like assembly line, like the hours in the day really matter. It doesn't matter what you're doing, right? It doesn't matter that you're creating anything. It just matters that you're working. Like that's unfortunately the problem with South Korea. Like South Korean capitalism is the reason they don't have kids anymore. Well, I mean, various other cultural reasons as well. Like there's a whole incel versus femcel war going on, social war. But a lot of it is because of is kind of the material conditions, for lack of a better term. So I think there's a nuanced take to the labor question versus work. And I think that when people like Spurg out on Twitter, people start insulting each other, and because Solian, he's got like a hair trigger temper. I mean, he's got.
Oh yeah.
He really goes after someone. He really goes after them. So but yeah, I think there's a nuanced take here. People are missing. So yeah, sorry for my long spiel, but I just felt I had to get it out there in the ether.
I mean, it's why we have the show, Gio.
Yeah. Well, there's some hair raisers though that Solian just says like this. Why should someone have to move? And this is a good point. Why should people have to move potentially across the country to access affordable housing, which isn't subject to the whims of criminals and vagrants? Your ideal is stagnation and rot. No, I do think like the whole like geomaxing thing is kind of like I understand what I understand what Mimenic Sisyphus is getting at. Like you do have to reconcile with a broken world, but at the same time you have to imagine something different. Like why is it that our generation and Zoomers under us, why do they have to like go to like ridiculous extremes to secure a position? Why is it that the North American and European labor forces have to compete with the rest of the world? Oh, but don't you know, like that's a global meritocracy, and that you should be proud that you're competing with some Chinese person or whatever that will work at ridiculous hours at lower pay. Because like, don't you know, you're just a lazy American? Like it's these polemics are what got us into the mess in the first place. And the conservative pundits, they went right along with the neoliberals. To the left. I mean, they're the right side of neoliberalism, but I mean to the left. They went right for it, and it is an anti-youth, anti-vitality polemic. And young people don't have meaningful work in the truest sense. So, yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Prue. If you had any thoughts on that.
You do have to grapple with the fact that these are the times in which you have to live in. And don't get me wrong, I appreciate youthful romanticism as much as the next guy. I may not be like 19 anymore, but I sure as heck have like romantic idealizations, in those trends. I think all men do. I don't think that ever really goes away, despite when you age. However, at the same time, like I have to acknowledge reality. And I also have to know that I am held responsible to the choices that I have made. And I haven't made some very good ones in my younger years when it came to like job or education or whatnot. But like I've also managed to get my ass in gear and get my act together in order to, put something together that's going to make me a contributing member of society. Now, how much a government bureaucrat contributes to society is a whole other question. Please don't redact me when that day comes. But like at the same time, like I've done well for myself, and I'm not like I live comfortably and as comfortable as I can with the conditions I'm in. But like I also understand moving. But at the same time, when you have to move into like a giant city or something like that, and then to make it work is awful, because then there's the cost of living, the cities. And I mean, yes, that's where the money is. That's where people are. You have to make it work. That's why people spend hours and hours and hours driving from the suburbs to go to Austin or to go to Dallas or whatever. And it's disgusting. And even living far away from that, like I can feel the creep of those like giant cities getting closer and closer to where I am. And it's awful to deal with. But I think that, your romanticism should always be an inspiration for what you want to accomplish in life, whilst at the same time knowing that you have to deal with the hand you've been dealt.
Yeah.
Now, could things be better? Absolutely.
Yeah. We live in very challenging times. I don't know if we wanted to talk about what's happening in the UK, because that's honestly
I don't have too much to add on that issue, other than Morgoth has in Carl Benjamin and Endeavor have had some of the better takes on this. It has been interesting to watch Elon Musk pivot from getting his ass handed to him over the H-1B issue and then to focus on Britain so much. SpaceX and like Starlink and all that jazz. I mean, it is a glorified defense contractor more than it really is like anything for space exploration. And it has contracts with the United States Department of Defense and the federal government, things like that. And so to watch this proxy for essentially the USG and the incoming administration be, pivoting on this issue, and also at the same time, he's not been doing anything with regards to the whole Canada-Greenland talk, but he has been, Trump's been doing that, and so is Trump's proxies. You're kind of witnessing this like push to like change regimes in both Britain and in Canada, and on issues that do matter. I mean, Canada has fundamentally failed. The Canadian government has fundamentally failed its people. Canadians, time and time again, have voted and wanted and have voiced against immigration and expansion of immigration. So, not great. The same thing with Britain, that we've known this for years, and they can't even have a basic inquiry, and similar to inquiries that they've done in the past. I mean, what more is there to say other than to witness these governments systematically subsidize, what in any other, and if this were happening in a third world country, we would call this genocide.
Yeah. There's some, well, I said this under Annie Slat's comment. It really is even demonstrating to people like normies who really don't think of people having the same, or people that, people project their own mindset. So people tend to project that if you move to the West, that somehow you leave your ethnic loyalties to the door. But it's no, actually, a lot of people are seeing the bald face stuff being posted about this, and by journalists in particular. There was this one guy that wrote this excerpt about it a few years ago, and for all of the 2010s discourse about I can't say it on YouTube, but that particular form of let's call it a grape apology, right? Grape culture. Fine wine, grape culture,
Yes, yes.
That's the real form of it. The real form of it. And I've seen journalists and people that are ostensibly liberals saying the most horrendous stuff, victim blaming, and talking about promiscuity culture. And it's all really just to obfuscate. It's very funny to see like the transnational progressive regime trying to sort out like what's more important. Like, you listen, I know people are going to get offended at this, okay? I know people are going to get mad at me. I know people are going to, oh, here's the wholesome chungus, male feminist, Gio, whatever. But it does seem to me that at every turn, a lot of like women's issues are still present, but a lot of women's issues can be selectively put under the stack to service other things, whether it be mass immigration or that other issue that TERFs talk about, for example, right? And so they're using like this weird, like Andrew Tate-esque language about like they're exaggerating, and of course 12-year-old girls in Britain are promiscuous, and it's like very disgusting stuff, right? But it's to service a greater purpose, right? There was a great tweet by, what was it, a Wotan Prince, about like modern leftism is really just ethno-nationalism for everybody else except for you, and also at your expense. That was a great tweet, right? But it's true. Like there is like, they will sideline certain issues to go for the real issue that matters, which is their immigration scheme, right? So the fact that they're using this language is incredible. And then you have like these very hideous politicians like Jess Phillips laughing as she's striking down the inquiry in Parliament. And I shouldn't say as much because it's just very dark and depressing. But it's been very revealing this past week as the Rotherham and other places in the UK as the gang issue has been coming up, without saying too much for YouTube. But there was this other issue that there's this like article by the New European, and there's these, EU politicians that are going after Elon Musk. And I'm not the biggest supporter of Elon Musk, but like saying that he's interfering in European democracy by tweeting out these things. And Keir Starmer was slapped down Elon Musk, and there's all these idiots, like these Nophoids, that rallied around this tweet about how the French can jail Elon Musk like they did Pavel Durov from Telegram. First of all, it's not going to happen, right? So, and second of all, like these people, you realize that you're sacrificing literally thousands of young girls and women because of your ridiculous, hyper-political, irony-poison culture war that you have to defend. It's just like, I don't know, man. It's evil. There's no other word for it. It's evil. And I think something, obviously if things continue, I mean, a lot of people that I know, a lot of British mutuals of mine, they say that, well, a lot of people feel like it can't continue on like this. It's unfortunate that the political class in the UK is even worse off than here. I mean, well, I shouldn't say that. The political class in Canada is pretty bad. But yeah, it's just it's a very impossible situation. And I'm not going to say what I really feel for YouTube. Maybe I'll save it for the core report in terms of...
Yeah, I can't either without demonetizing and getting both of us in trouble.
Yeah.
Because there are no words that I have for the situation that I can express honestly other than what has been done puts them at a level akin to Judas Iscariot. Yeah. And you have not only condemned those girls, but you have condemned your nation to an unfathomably bleak and evil and disgusting future. And that in any other time in human history, worse fates would these people have met.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen certain like liberal feminists that have like in Britain to like defend Jess Phillips. There was this one viral tweet about like it was going after Sargon. And here's the thing, not that I endorse what Sargon said. He apologized for it. I think it was right of him to apologize for what he said about Jess Phillips, right? That was a stupid statement. But Sargon was saying all sorts of stupid statements back in the day. You remember the alt-right one? You remember that
yes.
one, Crude? You're acting like a bunch of you-know-what. Anyways, so... oh, man. But there was this tweet about Sargon saying like you have no right to criticize Jess Phillips on this issue because you made fun and you did a grape joke. And it's like, here's the thing. Now, again, another thing I might get in trouble for with anime posters or whatever. But I don't think like I'm not gonna like morally condemn people for making jokes, obviously. But I do think certain jokes are kind of in bad form and bad taste. Like those particular jokes, you know what I mean?
I understand the optics. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I think where Carl is now compared to Carl several years ago when he made those comments, Carl's in a much better position to influence politics and have a much better position to carve out for other people on the like. He's as far as you can go on the right without necessarily being called a LARPer in Britain. Yeah. I mean, really Morgoth is, but I mean, for what Sargon is doing in terms of having a media platform, that's as far as to the right as you can get in a lot of ways without getting, arrested.
Yeah. No, but what I was going to say, Prude, is that the reason I mentioned the joke thing is that, like, I understand, like, for example, there's a lot of, like, women going after Howling Mutant recently. And, certain jokes I understand are in bad taste. I wouldn't make them. I do have a very screwed up sense of humor, though.
Oh, same.
Yeah, but, but for optics' sake, right, as a face lord, I don't condone doing those type of grape jokes, But at the same time, the issue is this, and this is what I said in reply to this feminist poster about Sargon, is that you have a material issue. Again, I know this sounds Marxist, right? Material conditions, right? You have a material issue of thousands of little girls and women who have been redacted, who have had their lives destroyed, who have had the most horrific types of SA trauma inflicted upon them by a demographic that does not belong in the UK, right? That is a material condition that still happens to this day. And there are people posting, what about the white gangs that were the white, PDF files that were doing? Well, guess what? You heard about them because they were persecuted, because they were in the front pages of The Guardian and the Daily Mail. And that's, yeah, fine. That's good. I agree. We should persecute those people to the fullest extent of the law. And it's a shame that the UK has a terrible prison system in terms of capacity, and of course does not have capital punishment. But the point being is that you have a material condition of women and girls being exploited and the most horrific things happening. But you're going to focus on this like ethereal, metaphysical, virtual culture war thing, which is making jokes, which Sargon said 10 years ago. Does that really make sense? Now, I agree, both things are kind of, both things can be bad, right? But one is kind of a bit worse than the other. So, and listen, I say this as not endorsing making those type of jokes. Please hear me out, right? I don't make them myself, whatever. But at the same time, you have to realize what's actually going on versus the culture war nonsense, right? And that's what really pisses me off. Now, you have other feminists like Annie Slats that get it, like they're going full force. But a lot of people that are still on the liberal, like leftist feminist side, they're choosing to accentuate the culture war nonsense and downplaying the other progressive stack issues with mass immigration. And it's a travesty. And and then people were saying, my friend Zinni she had this great tweet that I believe was censored by Twitter about like, well, you don't focus on when it happens among their communities too, like Pakistanis or whatever. And she's like, no, because usually they don't report it. And there's a lot of very nefarious stuff that happens among themselves as well. But and here's the thing. I'm not like, I understand that, yes, there are people like Tommy Robinson and even Elon Musk that are sort of playing into like the sort of, old school neocon, anti-Muslim, pro that
counter jihad argument. Yeah.
I understand, right? I understand. But at the same time, you cannot ignore the real issue here, which is happening, which has happened in the UK. And like I said, like Dave the Distributor says, both things can be true at the same time. There are people that arrive at truth, through less than pure means, and you have to watch out for those people. And I'm not a big fan of Tommy Robinson, but at the same time, it is a real issue. So a lot of people just have this like faction war nonsense on the right that I think is. And here's the thing: I'm not bashing all of Islam either. You know what I mean? Like I'm a big fan of Sufism and things like that. But I think that you have to really stand for for what's. You know what I mean, Prude, you know what I mean? I'm tripping over my words here, but you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to like go all the way and bash all of Islam, you know what I mean? But I'm just saying like, this is the problem that's happening. And those people do not belong in the UK, and it's a travesty. And
they don't belong there. End of discussion. Yeah. Like I don't, you don't care about them. And it's just like it's a backward society, and it is a criminal act to have them ever in my country or in Britain, the land of my ancestors to begin with. Like, I'm sorry, but like if this is the culture in which that faith and that region and that group of people engender, there's nothing good about it that I can say. So I'm not going to say anything at all. And I think it's best that we move on from this topic before my rage really comes out.
All right. And people are bringing up Palestine, and like I've always maintained I don't agree with what's happening in Palestine either. But let's move on. Anyways, someone do a super chat to see if Prudent and Gio, have you considered creating a distant right philosophy similar to Charles Haywood's foundationalism? And Chris Evans reactionary. I can't really.
I have not thought about it, and I don't. I don't. One, because I think that I'm not qualified to write it, or to
Mm,
write a manifesto, or to write a treatise on what my beliefs are, or anything like that. I think I should read a lot more philosophy before I get into really saying about that. What limited I have read, but also like my faith informs a great degree, if not almost everything, in terms of how I direct myself in regards to how I look at the world. And then finally, just I'm going to react to new information, or if certain philosophy or certain ideas change based upon their contact with reality, then I'm going to change that. So if I write something down, how much of that is going to change outside of, unless I reduce it to like the vaguest platitude imaginable. And even then, how concrete is a vague platitude if, it's vague and it's not going to really govern how you move?
yeah. Well, I've written a book on neoliberal catch. That's a concept I've created. So there you go. Vingal is correct. The religion doesn't concern me. It's the people. Yeah, I agree.
Correct.
Yeah. There's great parts of Islam. There's absolutely terrible parts of Islam. Like all things, right? So, anyways, it's more of a racial issue. Let's be real with ourselves.
Exactly.
Right?
And the sooner we can just say that, then the better we can move on and actually address the issue.
Yeah. What else has been happening during the holidays? The H-1B thing, I feel like that's played out. You know what I mean? Yeah.
That is true. Apparently, according this article came out last month, but apparently a white New Zealander won the Spanish World Scrabble Championship without speaking the language. What an incredible... Yeah. Richards, who is in his 50s, bested more than 145 opponents across the world. Apparently, he's like the Tiger Woods of Scrabble, but good for him. Good for this. Like, I'm pro autism. I'm pro savant. Like, why not? Let's make it. Let's go.
Yeah, that is truly excellence right there.
Truly.
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah, there's just been like, I don't know, there's been like a lot of very strange things. I think people are getting restless before I
think people are really wanting just for the Trump administration to start.
Yeah.
The Los Angeles fire chief, Kristen Crowley, has been fired by LA Mayor Karen Bass. Well, we knew heads were going to roll.
Man.
So there you go. It's a good time.
There you go. Oh, apparently Ethan Ralph is Snake Dick Masterson. So there you go. The feltoning never stops.
More felt.
Oh my god, you see this tweet by Local Distance? I think liberalism has already won. The currently popular alternatives to liberalism, wokeness, new reaction, post-liberalism, woke right, have lost. They may have they might have trouble on their way out, but they are on their way out. The cake is baked, they've lost, and they have no idea why. What?
Nah.
Oh my god. You know what I was debating? I was debating whether to go into the woke right thing in depth, because there's a bunch of like tweets about it, but
well, all I can say on that issue is that if you want to have that discussion, you can go watch an Indian man argue with Dave for like 3 hours.
Whoa! I didn't watch that one. Was it good?
I didn't either, and I don't think I will.
Yeah.
Dave, I thank you for being the interlocutor who is kind and professional enough to do all this shit, but I'm not watching that.
Yeah.
I should. I say that, and I say that now, but I'm going to end up watching it. I might have some thoughts on it later. I just know that it's awful, and it is what it is. It's like, in all these terms, it's language aside, it's just going to be this continuous desire to kick someone in the shins and to stir shit up. Because a lot of these people, I mean, like, let's face it, you know, if you're getting big for what you are, defending like classical liberalism, and you're on these tours with like Lindsay, or you're speaking on behalf of this, or you're working with certain quote unquote church groups to do all these things, I just assume that you're getting paid, and that you're getting paid well. And I hate to be so conspiratorial about it, because I'm sure that some of these people I have some genuine beliefs on these issues. I don't think so, but you know, I'll be nice and give the benefit.
Well, there's
of the
an
doubt.
alleged Reddit post by someone's alleged stepdaughter saying that it's all BS and that this person doesn't believe in anything.
Well, I wouldn't imagine that he believes in anything either. I mean, come on. I think it's incredibly depressing that you've lost access to a family and that people have disavowed you over quote unquote politics. I think that he truly is in a hell of his own making that he truly deserves, on the grounds that you wanted to be the main character, and that you were upset that like new atheist progressive liberalism that brought Barack Obama into office twice was fed to the wolves of a much larger entropic leviathan that said, because of your race and because of your beliefs, you were not good enough. And so what do? Well, you use the old new atheist playbook against that system. And turns out you're beloved by the same people that you were decrying just years ago. Remember, this man's an avowed new atheist who does not really believe in anything at all whatsoever, and claims any sort of belief of Christianity has either been corrupted and a known doxer. And so it's just like, okay, well, you know, you're in a hell of your own making that you have to present your talk about neo-Gnostic Marxism at a TP USA pastors conference. At a certain point, I get it. The money's good, but you gotta retire, man.
No, and also, but the interesting part was in this alleged post by this alleged stepdaughter saying that this person is duping all of these conservative TM people, and because he's saying fancy words that they're like, oh, like, and it's happened. There's historical precedent for that, where like conservative foundation people, you know, they love an academic telling them what to think. You know, they think it's fancy words. And here's one thing. Okay, I wanted to read this thread by Alex Noratesh. No, now Rasta. How do you pronounce it? And now as an NOW. RAS.
How about you just put it on screen so I can read it and maybe see if I can pronounce it?
Wait. I will put it on screen. I will share screen. Okay, copy. But no, I wanted to address this point that Spasticus Autisticus has said. Okay, open new window. Where is it? Paste and go. Okay. I'm okay. Here it is. Okay. But wait, one quick thing before So Spasticus Autisticus says that Gio, and by the way, this guy's been following me since the BTR days. Did you see that his quote to me saying Marxism is a materialist because the classless society is a Platonic ideal? Giga sued moment.
Wow. That should have been blown up harder than the Logo Daedalus Theosophy tweet. Marxism is not materialist. Excuse me?
But the second part about like Plato being classless. Okay, let me take off the kufi. I'm going to put back on.
He's going to put the serious hat on.
The serious hat. Okay. Let's go from the second one, because the first one's obviously okay, but I understand where Lindsay's coming from. Okay, so when it comes to the Guardians, when it comes to the Philosopher Kings, of course, yes, everything is held in common. Breeding, a certain Constantine Almaru wrote a book about, right breeding and philosophy. And when it comes to the Guardians specifically, there is no wealth, there is no class. But what James Lindsay ignores is that every other element of that perfect Republic society in Plato's Republic is very much class-based. They are metaphysically class-based. It's the noble lie. It's the metal that makes you, the element that makes you. gold, what is it? Gold, silver, bronze, right? Or something like that. Gold, silver, copper. The noble lie implies a classism. Like, even if you take the Republic as a real, the way that Alain Badiou does, and I'm sure that's what James Lindsay got it from. But
he ripped that straight from metapolitics, and you know it.
Yeah, exactly. No, that if you take it as a real political project, which has been a fallacy of Straussians and libertarians for 50 years now. If you take the Republic as a real political thing, ignoring the metaphysics, ignoring the Platonic system, ignoring what Neoplatonists said about it. It's just a political project, man. It's exactly what Karl Popper said. It's a closed society. I'm sorry, that's a midwit take. I'm sorry, and as for the first part, okay, here's where James Lindsay gets it. There is this book about how Hegel was inspired by a lot of European mystery schools, which could be true. It could be true that Absolute Spirit, the thesis, was probably inspired by some kind of occultism that was in the background of the Enlightenment. And in fact, the whole of the Enlightenment was, there was a lot of occultism and Neoplatonism going along. For example, my girlfriend, because she's a classicist, she does, she goes into this stuff. I'm not that well versed in it myself because I can't read Latin or ancient Greek, but whatever. So people have made this monkey chain, like James Lindsay's made this monkey chain, right? From Hegel to Marx to the European occultism that may or may not have inspired Hegelian thinking. Okay, whatever. Let's grant that thesis is true. It ignores the dialectical materialism in Platonism. In Marxism. Marxism is a secularization and a materialization of that Hegelian schema. Now, materialism means something different in Marxism, obviously, right? But they still have a sort of base eminentized distinction. Marx is eminentizing that Hegelian system. There is no metaphysics there. So to say that Marxism is not materialism in the way that James Lindsay means materialism, as in atheism or, scientism or whatever, that's ridiculous. Because you can, see, there you go. It's the book, Hegel and the Hermetic Tradition. That's the book. Thank you, Cremera. So that's the thing. But to deny that Marx was not a sort of like taking little bits of Hegel here and there, taking older socialist traditions and fusing it with Hegelianism, it's like to say that it's not like an inherently atheistic, eminentized project in the philosophic sense, that there is no metaphysical distinction, that's not a good reading. I mean, I know like there's a million interpretations of Marx, and Marxists, they love debating amongst themselves. But to say that that's such a fundamental point of Marxism, to do this like thing where it's like, oh, it's all Gnosticism and it's all this and it's like, why am I getting angry? It's incredible. It's just like, but so here's the thing about the woke right. And this is what I mean. When I say that people like James Lindsay, I know this sounds crazy. They are the real postmodernist Prude. Because when you look at their depiction of the self as a pure individual, not connected by history, not connected by tradition, not connected by dialectical materialism, just this pure atomized, libertarian individual. That's like all the Enlightenment tradition and, the woke right is using identity politics. But identity is everything. Identity is the facticity of life. Identity is the life world by which you exist in. Without any identity, you are nothing. So James Lindsay, in a weird way, and all those people, they kind of are like postmodernists. They kind of do want to rip the subject away from that stream, that life world of being, to say that you're just a pure individual. And it's like, what does this mean, woke right? And so here's this thread. Let me go.
Well, what's a pure individual in this sense? I mean, to go back to Foucault and to reinforce your point, like what is a purely de-identified individual? Like a person who's been reduced to the pure soulless individual. So there's no other characteristics. I mean, it's two things, right? Like one that would be like the perfect concept or the perfect person example of Kierkegaard's The Leveling. Like if you were leveled and reduced down to the purest form of an individual, no race, no identity, just you, just your agency. And even then that agency is going to be corrupted by the premises in which Lindsay wants to put forward as his solution to quote unquote fight the woke. What are you then but the antithesis of life itself? And I'm sorry, but if life itself, if you're an alternative way of living, i.e. this form of classical liberalism that they're putting out there, I mean, this is exactly what Deleuze and Guattari write about in Anti-Oedipus. Like this is the model of death. This is the they talk about de-individuation, but like the pure individual is de-individuated because you are now subject to the whims of any bond, of any connection. That's bad. That's quote unquote the woke right. And so in reducing all these bonds, they're not promoting individualism. They're not promoting some sort of classical liberal idea of that. They're promoting the de-individuated model of death that Deleuze and Guattari talk about. Like this is the body without organs.
No, and of course, Deleuze in particular, he get, especially in certain sections of Thousand Plateaus, he actually is very inspired by Carl Jung's concept of individuation as the integration or the rearranging of the self into an integrated whole. People don't know that, especially on the Becomings chapter of A Thousand Plateaus. Very, very Jungian language. Here we go. How do you pronounce that, Prude?
Great question.
No Rasta?
Now Rasta, I guess.
Yeah, I think no Rasta.
Oh, at the Cato Institute. So this is either going to be a really terrible take or it might be a diamond in the rough.
Yeah. Features of the woke right: identity obsession, race, and religion. Well, I don't know. Like a lot of the newer right people that are on the accelerationist Bappian side. Well, never mind. Let's not talk about that. Victimhood, can't get a break. Microaggressions everywhere. Seeing immigrants. That's what a leftist would say. Like that's what
it's the Cato Institute. It's bad. It's the Cato Institute. Like I'm pretty sure this guy is like he works at Cato, so I mean it's just like somewhat cringe, open borders, libertarian coal with a side of like these guys are anti-Semitic, pro, nativist, blah blah. And it's just like okay. So are they doing the whole? These guys are the same as the left.
Yeah. Ugh. Affirmative action for tribe regardless of cost. No skilled immigrants. Oh, there you go. H1B. Zero-sum lines. Somebody wins, somebody loses. Well, that's kind of like a human constant, no? Best criticism of the term woke right is how is this different from normal populism? Most Indian Americans are too busy working stuff. See, just stuff like this. Just like
so it just da-da-da-da-da. But oh, by the way, all you white people are awful.
Yeah. So you can play identity politics and be woke right for your people, but whites can't do the same, I guess.
Isn't it just when is how there's no real denial of what's being discussed by the right? It's just like, well, you guys are kind of similar, so we're just going to use this equivalent of horseshoe theory to just like keep you down.
Yeah.
Virtually every polemic possible to prevent anyone from engaging on a serious account of what's going on in this whole dialogue, which is that we want to gatekeep, we want to call you extreme, we want to say that you're just like diversity, equity, and inclusion, when really the logical conclusion of this is that citizenship means nothing, the people who built this country are expendable, that you being white is a terrible thing, and it's a shame that you're not like all these other foreigners that have a different culture of indentured servitude because they're predicated here on the visa system that they know can be pulled under the rug from them at any time. You're not part of a culture that constitutes cheating, fraud, stealing, theft, and murder in order to get ahead, in order to get a fake degree from an Indian university so you can seemingly get the job. No, like really all that this is simply saying that a moral or national populism. Oh, fuck off. I'm sorry. But like the nation state has always, until very recently, prioritized the citizen, the native, the person who has been there since the fucking beginning by nature of language, by the nature of blood, by the nature of relationship to the state, by whatever constitutes that. I mean, even if we were to read a progressive liberal like Ernst Renan, right, in 1848, who wrote What is a Nation, they would scream and call that woke right today because it defines what France is, it defines a language, a history, a people, a place, all these things that we take for granted, and has been eroded either by means of globalism, by the means of national betrayal, by the means of war. And they're simply saying that, well, because you want something that your parents had, your ancestors had, your posterity that you were supposed to be part of, now it's over. It's over.
And here is what Konstantin Kisin a few weeks ago had a rant about, or December 8th, actually, more than a few weeks ago, said that, I'm glad I invented the term woke right. I called the barbarian right, the Nietzschean right, the dissident right. Here's the key tenets to describe the woke right. Thinking the West is bad and siding with its enemies. To which, if it's trigonometry, he means Russia, by the way.
Yeah.
Not wanting a war in Eastern Europe, not wanting Eastern Europeans to destroy themselves and die en masse, because of some proxy war between the West and the Kremlin. Yeah, that's we're siding with the enemies, right? Playing identity politics on the basis that their group is oppressed by a secret invisible force controlled by another group / groups. I'm not going to comment on that. Having an obsession with group-based victimhood and grievance, seeking to revise and pervert history to fit ideological narratives, react to disagreement with name-calling, ostracism, and bullying. How is that? That's everybody does that. Every ideology does that. Create a culture of fear among more center-leaning people on their side to prevent criticism. You should see how many people message me privately to say that they agree with the woke right, but don't want to say it. Given people who are upset by hereby withdraw the term woke right on one condition: you provide a better term to describe the fringe of the right, which replicates every key aspect of wokeness. How do these people get to determine what is right wing and what isn't? That's I don't understand.
A great question.
Like it's not like
almost as if like the history of these movements have always been disaffected liberals that are either funded or have an agenda or a knife to put in your back are going to tell you what the right is. Like, what's that? Konstantin Kisin? A guy named after a king who he hates with a fiery passion of 1,000 suns by the nature of his birth?
Yeah.
Has some opinions about the right wing and hates other people by the nature of his race and by the nature of his blood? You tell me for the first time that this guy's got an agenda? He's a slippery snake that can't be trusted? Say it ain't so.
No, but all these classical liberals, not even classical liberals, but I mean like all these pundits James Lindsay isn't the same as in terms of like their ethnicity or whatever, but all these guys, even here, you have like various talking heads that here's the thing. I don't really fault like boomers for like towing the same sort of conservative line about things. I understand sometimes an old dog can't learn new tricks, but guys like Kisin and Lindsay and others, and we'll call distance and what's the woman named Pluckrose?
Helen Pluckrose.
They it's very clear that their whole purpose is just to contain the right wing. And who really gets to define the right wing? I mean, does not someone like Joseph de Maistre have more of a in terms of pure thinking, has more of a how should I say, a title through his writings to define what the quote unquote right wing is, rather than James Lindsay? Does not even someone more contemporary, even someone like who am I thinking of? Even someone who gets the closest while still being in the normie conservative pundit sphere, like Pat Buchanan. Mm-hmm. Who am I going to trust more when it comes to the North American right wing to define what the North American right wing is? Pat Buchanan or Konstantin Kisin or Helen Pluckrose or We'll Call Distance or who's one of these other losers that what's the guy's name that Dave debated, the Indian guy?
Neil Shenvi.
Yeah. He doesn't seem that evil compared to Lindsay or Kisin, but I'm just saying, it seems like an op, right? Now, there is an argument to be made. I saw that Zoomer historian was arguing with someone, I think he was arguing with a Groyper, about how, like a nominally like normie conservative regime can lead to like a more right-wing regime, like it happened like, but then there's a debate like in Germany, right? Like there was like the revolutionary conservatives who were against the Austrian painter, but for like more like aristocratic ideas. But then but even after Weimar, there was like a little bit of like a conservative administration, and we all know what happened after Weimar. So there is a debate, but at the same time, there is an argument to be made that there are forces in conservatism TM to which these like liberal people that talk about the woke right have attached themselves to, that they are a containment op, really. I mean, it's very obvious. And
they'll admit it.
Yeah.
Or they'll be happy. I said they'll admit it.
Yeah, they'll admit it. Yeah. I mean, Kissen will admit it. They have this mindset of being preventative, of like we have to prevent this great evil that's going to come about, and it's like it's the political left doesn't have it. I mean, I shouldn't say that the political left has been subverted by other forces, right? But at the same time, when it comes to the question of power. And this is another thing too, to bring Michel Foucault in, like you said, Prude. That's what makes them like this like weird kind of like half postmodern thing. Because if you're talking about the absence of power, that to exercise power is woke right, it's evil, it's just like the left. It's like that is detaching you from every single relation, both between heaven and earth and between the human and the earth, because power is kind of like it's a generative force. It's saying that like, oh man, like it's like I wish I could breathe without air. I wish I could live without breathing. Breathing is like bad, man. Like it doesn't make any sense.
True.
Power is by the relation of humanity to human, to the earth. Everything has a form of power. It is true. Power is destructive. Power is creative. And, this whole thing about getting rid of power, then how do you conceptualize a polis? If you want to go back to the bare basics, to Aristotle and the politics, how do you conceptualize a political arrangement, a society, without a form of power? Is James Lindsay an anarchist? Is he like Emma Goldman? Or is he like Kropotkin or Murray Bakunin? Like, no, it's like, it's incredible. It's like, how does James Lindsay get away with saying this stuff? Like, whoa, power is evil. Power is evil. But it's like, I don't know. Let's move on, Prude. You have something to say about power, Prude? Or I don't know.
I mean, really, this argument's been repeated all the time of like, when you use power, you're just as bad as the enemy, or da-da-da-da-da. And I mean, a lot of this just feels like kind of this really bizarre, lukewarm moralism. It's like, well, you can't do that because that's not good, or you'll be just like them. And it's just like, it's the whole... It's very Pharisaical to begin with. It's very Pharisaical, and it's very much a letter of the law versus the spirit of it. But also at the same time, it's also just this like learned helplessness. It's like, no, you have to be an impotent loser. And it's like, I'm sorry, I don't need little blue pills to get my argument across the board. I'm not going to listen to you. But that's really what this is that it is a promotion of, learned helplessness and impotency, because power is necessary when it comes to these issues. And if I'm going to have to sit there and be lectured about why it's important to be a limp dick about the most important civilizational issues of my time, I'm going to be brash, I'm going to be mean, and I'm going to be, an asshole about it. Because I'm sorry, what you're promoting is civilizational suicide. And I think anyone with a couple of brain cells to rub between them, between their ears and their noggin, are going to look at that and be like, well, this is disastrous if taken to its logical conclusion. And at this point, it's a zero-sum game for me, where it's like, if the logical conclusion of your ideas constitutes some kind of destruction of like who I am, my background, my history, the people that I like, my beliefs, then I'm sorry, like that cannot be I can't abide by that.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, it's true. But I just think that the impossibility of conceptualizing politics without, unless you like truly believe in the claims of like Karl Popper style open society liberalism, which is not real, by the way. It's not, I hate to say it, but it's kind of like doesn't exist, right? But even if that open society dictates that, like you were saying, Prude, that you have to destroy everything that makes you who you are, then you kind of are like this nebulous floating. What did Deleuze call it in Guattari in the beginning of the Body Without Organs chapter? A floating band of sinuous threads.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So like that's unironically like that's I'm sorry, James. That's postmodernism. Like that's like, you know, I mean, I thought you read Deleuze. I thought you read Deleuze and Guattari. But it's just, yeah, it's incredible. And I hate to say it, but there is like a lot of like slop podcast bro things that enable this like kind of like bro, you know, like we were talking at the beginning of the show, Prude. Could you call it like podcast bro centrism? Like, you know, Jordan Peterson, Russell Grant.
Well, I mean, he's on his own shtick too, because not only is he with the Daily Wire, but also I think he just recently interviewed Peter Poilievre, or however you pronounce it, like the next Prime Minister of Canada, and it's just like we're kind of witnessing this, you know, podcast bro regime change to some extent, where it's just like, okay, we're gonna Trudeau stepping down, and I mean with good reason, good riddance. But now, you know, Peterson and all this talk about like, you know, Governor Trudeau and on top of all this discussion about with Musk in Britain, it's just like, so we're kind of witnessing the tech center flex its muscles with the USG, or at least with like the Trump wing of things, to just listen, the EU and Canada and Britain are part of these like regulatory environments. And it's not just like regulations or whatnot, but it's also about, these are clearly civilizational issues that are being described. And I don't want to just say like, oh, he's in it for tax breaks. I think that I don't trust Musk as far as I could throw you. And I don't trust Musk as far as I could throw, you know, like a 200-pound stone or whatever. It's just like, I don't trust him. However, like, is it good for the public discourse to be talking about basic civilizational issues of like, hey, according to like the recent stats that came out of Canada, it's like how many people are foreign born, and how many foreign born children are there now in comparison to like ethnic Canadians?
40%,
like that's
I think.
That's civilizational suicide. I mean, America's on the same route. Like, I'm not gonna point at
America. I think statistically has a worse demographic situation than even.
Oh yeah, we do. Like, I'm not gonna ever point that. I mean, like, America's fucked in so many ways demographically. Unless
I'm getting,
you know,
Big Ben. I'm trying, man. Like,
it's
I
bad.
recently solved the cardio issue. I went and bought myself a birthday present, a recumbent. What do they call it? Recumbent bike? Yeah. There you go. You know, it's not as impactful on my joints. You know what I mean? But is that what they call it, Prude? You know, when you sit down, recumbent bike? I think so.
Are you on a stationary bike?
No, it's not a stationary. I think it's the same as stationary, but like you're sitting back and like your legs are in the front instead of like standing up, like a real bike. And it's called a recumbent bike. Yeah, it's the same principle. It's just like a stationary bike. Yeah, it's a thank you, recumbent bike. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, it's for like I know.
I use a stationary bike, so I was like I don't know what the other term was. I mean, so it's good that these issues are being discussed, and I mean, America's demographic situation are terrible, and we're witnessing this like bizarre. And Dimes and I talked about this when we covered Robin DiAngelo's white fragility this last Monday.
That was a fun stream.
I guarantee you that got shared by some lefties, or it got like an algo pop or something, because there were some like 3 Arrows Antifa types in live chat, and I was like, oh, fuck me. And I was trying to be like the restrained one while Dimes was saying all the things that I really think. And but one of the things that did come out of that was like the term white shift, or like multiracial whiteness. Those are important terms that aren't going away politically speaking, and they're not going to go away anytime soon, because you're kind of witnessing that in election results. Like, people want to be seen as like, there's a coalition of like Hispanics particularly that are like, we kind of want to be white, and we would like to be seen as such, because like some of these like South and Central American racism is insane. Where it's like, well, we don't want to be like those Indios over there, and it's just like, I don't blame you. Like, I wouldn't want to either. I wouldn't want to be part of that part of the world either.
I'm more Iberian,
you know, like, so I get it, but at the same time, America, like, again, I will always remind my American friends, like, let us look at the log and the plank in our own eyes before we complain about the speck of countries that are per capita far whiter than ourselves. But at the same time, like America still is in a position where it can have the political exercise and the money and the capital to kind of avoid or evade the consequences of how awful things are getting. But again, yeah, like internally, like things are pretty bad here in the US, but you have to, I'm going down with the ship. I don't see myself leaving, or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but uh multiracial whiteness. No, but yeah, that's what I mean. Like it really is sort of like like I don't know, is like has anyone really asked like what us like what society really looks like in the eyes of these people, like what they mean by the sort of status quo that they're defending against from the radical left and the radical right? Like it's that's what's really lost in these woke right debates. It's like, what do these people actually want? Like, okay, I kind of know what they want. They want containment, obviously, but like, do they really like? You know what I mean? Like, what separates them from just I don't know the standard leftist? I don't know. Like, it's just I forget what I was gonna say. What were we talking about before, Prude? I'm having a brain fart right now.
We were going off about the Shenvi and power and politics.
Oh yeah. Oh man. No, but about power. Yeah, about power. Like, it seems nonsensical to me. I mean, how you could even conceptualize a political arrangement, at its most basic sense. But the question is, why do they almost always turncoat at some point? Well, yeah, that's the truth. No, about the podcast, bro. Though, yeah, about the podcast, bro. Yeah, I wanted to watch that one with Polyev just to see like what he says in that like informal setting with um I think the last Peterson thing I ever watched was when he interviewed Zinni LeVay. Although it's very funny because like she's divorced from Nicholas Schreck, but I think she still goes by Zena Schreck. It's very weird, but it was a good interview. It was a good interview. But no, I wanted to see just to see what Polyev says. But there is sort of like this podcast bro centrism that is gaining prominence, and whether or not, like, I mean, yeah, I mean, it is true, like you were saying, that to move the conversation in at least a nominally away from the Overton window 2010s leftism direction, right? Like towards a more apt condition for the right wing, that is a positive. But so I understand that people freak out, like, you know, they have this knee-jerk reaction to it. But at the same time, again, yeah, I don't trust these people either. I mean, the fact that they're willing to hang out with odious people like Andrew Tate is just, I don't know, like there's something about the network of it. Like there's something there. I think that maybe there is something to the thesis that there's a rival elite that, you know, wants to preserve capital in more of a pure form or whatever. And a lot of these sort of excesses of transnational progressivism as it's been practiced in the 2000s and the 2010s, that wasn't really advantageous to them. And it always centers around Silicon Valley for some reason. And there definitely is something there. Not to say like some of it, all of it's bad. Like, you know, I mean, people were mentioning the Mel Gibson interview with Joe Rogan. That was a pretty good. I watched half of it.
I did not see that one. The last Joe Rogan interview I watched in full was the
Trump one?
Wesley Huff one.
Oh yeah. No, but yeah, it was pretty good. The Mel Gibson one is pretty good. He was like Vegano posting, and
it's really funny. Up until he had interviewed Trump and Vance, I had like not paid attention at all to Joe Rogan in years. I think when he made the Spotify deal, it's like, oh, okay, because I don't.
Me neither.
I was like, I don't use Spotify, and so I was like, okay, well, I'm not gonna follow along. And also, I have friends to listen to, so like, why bother, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what it became of it. And then like the election cycle came in, and it's like, oh, I guess I'll go listen to the Trump and the JD Vance interviews. And then I listened to the Fetterman interview and a couple of others that have happened since then. And some of them are okay, and some of them are awful. And it's like, I get why. It's like, yes, like the grug-brained Lex Friedman is back. You know.
I didn't watch the Zelensky interview.
Is that out yet? Or no, the Lex Friedman
Lex
Zelensky
Friedman.
interview. I did
Lex
not watch
Friedman.
it either, and I've not seen a single Lex Friedman podcast, and I'm
The
not
only
going
one
to
I saw
start
was the
now.
Israel debate. That was it. Yeah.
Oh, the
Mr.
one with
Benelli.
what's his name?
Oh,
With Destiny.
Yeah, with the little guy, Mr. Benelli, against Finkelstein. No, I cannot watch Lex Friedman. Like, I cannot watch a one-on-one with Lex Friedman. Like, it's just something about him is just, I hate him. I don't know. I just don't like Lex Friedman. I've watched a bit of Joe Rogan in my day. But then he's back on YouTube now. That's why I started watching a little bit of him again. Kanye made Lex cry. That was funny. It's hurtful, Kanye. It's hurtful. I love to love. Yeah, I love to love. Oh man, yeah, he really, I don't know, like Lex Friedman kind of is like an anti-dimes, you know what I mean? Like he really just doesn't he doesn't, I don't know how he draws dimes, to use a wrestling lingo. I don't know how, like I don't know how he puts ears in the stands to, I don't know, man. The guy is anti-charisma. It's just how did this guy, who claims to be an MIT grad or whatever, what is he, a mathematician or physicist?
I think something in that realm.
Yeah, like how did he become like the podcast interviewer? Like I don't understand. It's just,
well, he rose to prominence at the same time. I think the Spotify deal went for Rogan, and so it was like, oh, we need like another kind of AstroTurf podcaster with a different, to like still get millions of views on YouTube. We need our cash cow. Come here, Biggie. It's just like, that's what I feel like. He just kind of like was birthed from clay and molded in a kiln in like Wojcicki's office. Well, probably not Wojcicki's office, but like somewhere.
The perfect absence of a personality to interview.
Like people. Perfect, like he was just like, he's like the perfect like unensouled person. He's just like, I have no qualia, but I must speak. And so I'm going to sit in my podcast chair, sponsored by MIT and probably like the Israeli State Department, and I must speak. It does not matter that there is not a rational bone in my body. I must talk now. And it was like, because I saw the clip that he did like a year or so ago with like the Mearsheimer interview, where like John is sitting there and he's like, well, if we got, Zelensky and Putin in a room together, surely we could like hash this all out like normal human beings. And John is looking at him, realizing at that exact moment that Zelensky's retarded, and he's just like, or not, that Friedman's retarded, and it's just like, oh no, what am I doing? I'm like 90 minutes into this 3-hour interview and I can't escape. And it's just like, and again, man. Friedman is sitting there in his chair and he's just like, I have no qualia, but I must speak and I must podcast and I must return to MIT under dubious circumstances. And it's just like, oh my God, like who listens to this? Am I, and I hate to do the whole, like, am I out of touch? Because maybe I am, and I'm like a terminally gigafried, one-shotted, right-wing extremist online brain where it's like it's over for me, and I'm never going to look at things the same because I've been like so irreparably like ideologically damaged in the same way that like someone exposed to hardcore pornography is like fucked forever at 11. And it's just like, am I out of touch where people listen to this? And like you see the view count, you're like, that can't be real. Are there that many idiots or that many like midwits? And then you have to come to the realization, oh no, there is. And you're not one of them.
Well, there's millions of people that watch me and Orkbrand were talking about that. There's millions of people that watch like Mr. Beast or Sniper Wolf or whatever, it's like, yeah.
And you're like, oh no, I'm insulted.
You should tweet that though.
No, I'm okay. I'm okay. I've already gotten myself in trouble for saying all these things.
About Lex Friedman?
No, just in general.
No, but like it's funny because in the Zelensky interview, he's like, "Do you have it in your heart to forgive Vladimir Putin?" It's like, what? Why would you ask him that? First of all, the answer is no. And second of all, like, that's so, like, it's not like, listen, geopolitics.
Could you imagine, like, okay, just imagine that the war is over for 2 seconds and Zelensky's out of office and he's sitting somewhere in New York
or Miami,
and he's trying to get a job. And you have Lex Friedman interviewing him as like the HR manager. And it's just like, can you tell me about a time that you really struggled at your previous job and you overcame? And Zelensky's just like, well, I just I was in a war and I couldn't get enough Coke money, and it's just
when we lost
that's a really
we lost
fantastic
the
answer. I'm so glad. I mean, the losses, and somehow you pulled through. Millions dead. Your country overran and rebuilt by BlackRock and Muslims. I'm so proud of you. You're hired, and it's just like, oh, I said thank you. I will come in t-shirt. It's just like, it's tragic, and it's really depressing that like a sitting president of a country, and it's not like he's really in charge, but like, come the fuck on. And like, hundreds of thousands are dead. Like your entire young male generation bracket has been utterly destroyed. The church persecuted, and this literal like anti-Semitic caricature is doing podcasts with Lex Friedman. Like I couldn't be more. How long, oh Lord? How long do we have to endure?
Yeah. No, but the thing is though, like geopolitics, I know that like the way the media frames it as like personalities, the whole like quote unquote Eurasian strongman thing about Putin and Zelensky, but like geopolitics doesn't work that way. Like you can't just like get two figures in a room and like this is the biggest war in continental Europe since World War II. It's like it's not like a matter of even like, I hate to say it, but like even Putin doesn't have, I shouldn't say that, he does have quite a bit of autonomy, but like there are people in the Kremlin that are expecting him not to screw things up again. You know what I mean? Like geopolitics does not work as simple as two leaders getting together. Like when Nixon met, did he met Deng? Was Deng in charge when he opened up China?
No, it was Mao.
Was it still Mao?
Yes, he met with Mao.
When did Mao die?
That's a great question.
In the late 70s, right?
76.
Okay, there you go. So it was Mao.
So 4 years before his death.
Yeah. So
he met with Mao and Zhou Enlai.
Yeah, that's right. But the thing is, though, like that was a symbolic thing. Like there was negotiations and there was diplomatic meetings with tons of bureaucrats and Chi-Com officials and so forth that were going on for years before that point. And it's like, it's just this whole like framing of like, what if Putin was in this room right now? What would you say to him?
It feels like such a fucking therapist conversation. Yeah. Like, can you? I almost want you to like deep fake the fucking scene from Good Will Hunting where like Lex Friedman's Robin Williams and he's like, "It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault." And then like Lex Friedman like breaks down, cries. Like that would be the perfect ending to that podcast episode. It's just like Lex Friedman giving this like man a hug, and they're just like, "Listen, brother, I've been there. We've all been there." Like they share this like collective memories. They sing "From the Waters of Babylon" from the Psalter one more time. They're just like, "It's so bad," and that would be it. Like that would be far more fitting for an end. Maybe that, or like you put their faces on like a scene from Fiddler on the Roof or something. I want a rich man, but like it's see, I'm getting myself more into trouble. Gio, you have to stop me before I put my foot any further in my mouth and I'm choking on my ankles.
Yeah. What was it this time? What should I edit out this time?
Oh, you don't. I'm just simply telling you, come on, let's change the subject before I keep going on these riffs.
No, but that was funny. Like, would you kiss Putin if he was here right now?
Like, I just imagine Lex Friedman playing with like two Ken dolls that he's got. It's like that Robot Chicken skit. It's like, "This is me. This is Vladimir Putin. We're getting married. This is me. This is Vladimir Zelensky. We're getting married." Like, thoughts. I'm just thinking out loud. I'm just a strange.
This is the Putin doll.
Just a little strange. Just a little strange.
No kiss. Oh, that's so funny. You've actually made me significantly hate Lex Friedman less now that I imagine him as a child in therapy.
But here's the scary part. He's the therapist.
Oh, God.
That's the thing. He's the therapist. He's the one asking questions.
Oh, man. Oh man, this world is doomed, man. This world is the slop never ends. But speaking of slop, what else has been going on Prude lately?
I don't know. Like I kind of tuned out from the world for a couple, like a week and a half, which was great.
Yeah.
And then I watched a shitload of movies. So, I mean, I wrote a Nosferatu review, and then I watched that Netflix original Carry On, which I could never have my suspension of disbelief broken because it was simply, I couldn't believe a TSA agent actually doing his job. But also, like, Taron Egerton looks like a young Robert Patrick.
Oh yeah.
And so like that was kind of interesting, but the movie's dumb. But I mean, like, it's kind of cool to watch what's his name play a villain. But also, like, it was just for what it was, for the, I guess, like a woke attempt at making a straight white guy the protagonist. Like, he's still a fuck up, you know, like, oh, you never became you couldn't become a cop, and like you're a TSA agent who's a total loser, who's also with like a girl that I would say is out of his league, but also like she's a terrible actress to work with. So like not a great film at all, but like it had everything. It had like all the token diversity. It had a Jewish guy working on Christmas Eve at like the police station. It was everything that you could possibly ask for.
What was this
Whereas I
film
think
about?
it's called Carry On.
Oh, is it about a TSA agent?
It's literally, yes. That, I wonder where you got that context clue from. Yeah, it's about a TSA agent. I wouldn't recommend, but I mean, it was serviceable for what it was, being a Netflix original film. Just also like this is all taking place in Los Angeles International Airport, and you're like, no way in hell is LAX this empty on Christmas Eve. But okay, whatever, for the sake of the film. You know, and it's also about those evil military-industrial complex corporations wanting to take out congressmen. And it's like, well, you know, first of all, based, but secondly, like, no, it was not good. It's very lefty coded, very, very, very Reddit. Not particularly good. Nosferatu was, I have mixed feelings on it. Because I feel like Eggers has like the same thesis that he says in virtually all of his movies, which is that like secular rational man is not prepared for when it encounters evil or when it encounters the supernatural. It's been that way since even in the Northman, it's in there. Like, you know, just like we cannot contemplate as a modern audience moviegoer the type of violence, the type of supernatural forces that take place in this world for man to commit extraordinary evil or to do extraordinary acts on behalf of these things. And it's the same thing with like Nosferatu, because like Willem Dafoe's character is like trying to like remind the audience, hey man, don't think about Jung. Don't think about female sexuality or libido at all in this movie. Don't think about the fairer sex at all, despite the fact that this film is very much a thesis on women. But like, you know, Willem Dafoe is just like, it's just a movie, guys. We're gonna try and kill a vampire. Like, that's what we're here to do. But he plays this like esoteric mystic from Switzerland.
What if there's a vampire? I think
what if there's a vampire? You know, what about like female goon slop? And it's just like, it's all there, buddy. Like, you're gonna have a great time. And it's funny to watch all these guys on Twitter be like, this is a great date movie. And I'm like, are you sure about that? It's just like, I'm going to see more of what's her name? Lily Rose Depp's breasts than I wanted to. And just like the perfect kind of just like, I don't need to see you come. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I really didn't need to see that.
If you wanted to see that in a vampire film, there's this, you can find it on YouTube. It's called The Naked Vampire.
I guess it's like, I mean, the argument you would make is like, it's tastefully done. But like, at the same time, the best part for me was just like Defoe telling all of these like nice, you know, early 19th century Europeans that's like, you rational morons are fundamentally unprepared for the fact that evil still exists in this world and that your science can't handle it. Because like, it's a fun contrast for him to like, you know, bring her to consciousness and stuff like that, whilst, you know, the doctors are like, you know, giving her chloroform and laudanum and like tying her up. Like, the overt, like, this movie drips with sex without having a lot of it in like the traditional way of.
Well, that's like all vampire movies, right?
Oh yeah, it's like
yeah, that's like Queen of the Damned.
Yeah, that's true. But I want to like it, but at the same time, it's not my favorite Eggers movie. Like, I've watched it twice. First time I was like, okay, this was pretty good, and I watched it the second time and I was like, oh, I kind of feel like I got screwed over in the last 40 minutes. And I've already like the film has already blown its load, and now it's like trying to like continue the act whilst entering the refractory period. And I'm like, well, I get the effort and I appreciate your enthusiasm, but like also we're both done here.
It's book talk and film.
It really is. It really is. And it's just like, I get what you're trying to do and I appreciate the effort, but like, dude, you finished like 40 minutes ago and we're done here.
Well, you know, I like a good romance film from time to time, and The Naked Vampire is actually a great, I guess, like Bappian coded film. It's about these scientists who are conducting a eugenic program where they want to discover how a female vampiress is living forever, but it's also imbued with all these rituals and stuff. So it's a great film. I think you can still find it on YouTube, The Naked Vampire. So
let's go do that right now.
I've heard.
When did it come out?
Like the 70s.
The Naked Vampire full movie.
I think you still. Let me see.
Yeah. Do you mean the Nude Vampire?
Sorry, the Nude Vampire. Yeah, the Nude Vampire.
Yeah, the Nude Vampire. Yeah, 121 minutes or 1 hour 21 minutes. 544,000 views uploaded 4 years ago. Wealthy and decadent industrialist Georges Radamonte rules over a strange and secret suicide cult that wants to achieve immortality. Movies I will never watch.
It's great kino, though.
I'm okay. I'm not, as much as I have just like destroyed my credibility of my username by how I just described Nosferatu in a review with regards to the sex metaphor. I'm not one who actually really appreciates schlocky, nudie B horror films. Or
yeah, true.
I get like I've seen a bunch of cannibal movies from the Italians in the 70s, and it's just like I get it, I appreciate it, but like I don't need that in my life right now, you know. The same thing with this movie. I was like, I'm okay. Like the non-sexy parts of Nosferatu were actually the best parts of that movie for me. And I think that just tells more about myself that I've just like publicly confessed to my audience in a weird parasocial way that makes me seriously reconsider what the hell I'm doing with my life.
No, but isn't it true? Like it's sort of Robert Eggers venturing into like Nolan territory of like, this is what stupid people think a smart movie is type of deal, or no?
No. I don't think that. I think that I don't think Eggers wanted to commit to his thoughts on women. I really think that's what this is. I don't think Eggers wanted to commit to what he really thinks about women and sex.
I know that Jack the Perfume Nationalist, he called it like a dime square movie in the sense of like vaguely trad here and there, vaguely metaphysical, oddly Catholic, but not like really committing to anything. Which is very funny.
I can't even call it oddly Catholic. It's not oddly Catholic. There's like veneer of traditionalism. Although I mean, like it takes place in transit. Like for instance, like Thomas Hutter in this movie, like he narrowly escapes with his life and is nursed back to health in an Orthodox convent. And like a great schema nun explains like why Nosferatu must never leave his vile castle. And also he witnesses a bunch of gypsies taking this like 18-year-old girl naked on a horse to like a corpse. And they stab it because they think it's a vampire, and then like he wakes up, and it's just like, so I mean, like it like there's like esotericism, there's religion, there's Christianity. Although like the cross is not really at all mentioned, like only in the East. And again, this is clearly the point of the film that Eggers is trying to get across. Like he thinks that in the East, like there's still religiosity and folk religions and beliefs, and like there's still a Christianity that fears these like evil things. And then he goes to like this enlightened, you know, post-French Revolutionary West, and of course this all takes place in Germany, but everyone speaks with an English accent, that the cross is not mentioned at all, or religiosity is given lip service, but it's all about the doctors, it's all about the science, all about like the secular rationalist worldview. And then even like Thomas's wife, Ellen Hutter, like her friend gives her a cross so you can hold on to this, but they never consider the cross as a weapon. They never, like, you know, the traditional weapon against a vampire, the silver bullet, or I mean, the stake to the heart, the clove of garlic, the cross, none of these things are explicitly used as a weapon against it. So instead, what does the film conclude on? Sorry, I'm spoiling the fucking film, but you should already know how this thing ends because this is another remake of this tale that's been around for over 100 years. But it's like, What is it? Oh, well, the way to beat the vampire is to commit ritual human sacrifice, as long as it's consensual. As long as Ellen consents to being sacrificed and hold on to him as she gets literally eaten out, not in the cunnilingus way, but like literally eaten from her flesh. And he can hold her down, legs wrapped around him. Then I suppose like her death is worth it if it means stopping the vampire. And it's like, well, cool. You already told us that this was going to happen 40 minutes ago, and I got to sit for 40 minutes to go watch her get literally eaten out and die and to kill Bill Skarsgård, Nosferatu. And it's just like, well, I think I'm done for this for a little while, and I can see why women like it. So there you go. Those were my movie thoughts. I also watched the Batman, Robert Pattinson's film, for the first time over the last couple of weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, what a hot mess! Where it's like, we're the defenders of change. Like, it's the anti-Nolan film. And I mean, like, there's a lot of normie film media review critics that are saying, like, each Batman movie reflects on the last one. And it's like, yeah, no shit. Like, if it weren't more blatantly obvious with how they want to do this. I mean, like, I like Robert Pattinson as Batman. I just hated the political environment that he has to be in. Like, it literally has the scene where, like, a bunch of the followers of the Riddler, they, like, beat up an Asian guy. But it's like clearly like the black guy can't commit to doing it while everyone else is white. And it's like, come the fuck on. Like, can we be any more on the nose about what current year it is and what social issues are going to age like shit? Whereas like the Nolan films, I think even now, years later, have aged incredibly well with respect to the questions that are there about power and how to use it and responsibility. Whereas this one, it's just like, oh, well, we have to understand how corrupt the system is. And it really, like, we need to bring in change, which means we need to elect this underqualified black woman. And it's just like, who cares?
So wait, the Batman's replaced by diversity hire in the
No, Batman is still white. He's played by Robert Pattinson, but like the new mayor, this is all taking place under the pretenses of an election. So like you have the number of days until the election happens, where like the black progressive candidate is sure to win. And then all the dirty laundry about, classism and, or, what does it mean to be an orphan when you have millions of dollars and stuff. But it's also like Batman 2 years into like being Batman, and not just Bruce Wayne. And like, I like the idea of like a younger, kind of inexperienced Batman. It's unfortunate. Like, this is just the time that we're dealing with here. So, I mean, it is what it is, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Cape Slop, but anyways, yeah.
Has the kind audience members been giving Gio money? I hope they have been.
I hope. We've been away for a while, so like I say, the Canadian dollar isn't doing too great. So.
Yeah, this is the new year, and I don't feel any different.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. I think like this year would like the first 100 days of Trump's administration will set the narrative for, I think, the rest of the decade. But we'll see. Maybe that's too much of an overestimation. We'll see what happens because isn't Trump going to close out the decade basically?
Trump's term will end in 2028. So I mean, it's going to be like closing out the decade in the same way that Reagan, quote unquote, closes out the decade.
Yeah.
So I mean, basically.
And yes, I did get the Koofy hat. I was wearing it in the beginning, but then we were talking about James Lindsay, so I had to be super serial.
Yeah, he put on his serious hat.
Let me put the Koofy back on. Yeah, there you go. It doesn't perfectly fit my head like the Fez does, but it gets the job done. So yeah, let's go to Super Chats now. Please see those Super Chats. I appreciate everything. Go to patreon.com/Shiner Productions. The weekend I will come out with a content-minded. I was thinking about doing one that was radically different, but I'm going to do one on work of art, aesthetics, because of the Dean Kissick event he did with the Red Scare podcast recently, and because of the opening of the National Futurist Party Gallery, the Manifesto Gala that happened yesterday with my artwork. I decided to do one analyzing various works of art. I put it on wrong. Yeah, you're right. I did put it on wrong. So I'm going to be talking about the Dean Kissick article in Harper's Magazine about the state of the contemporary art world. And I'm going to talk about the art of Ray Pete and some other things too. So that'll be on the weekend with Content Minded. And I am going to record again with Kat Dee, so a new episode of The Computer Room featuring me. Although Kat did come out with a solo episode that was pretty damn good. Could you maybe do one on the aesthetics of Rockwell? Well, you're going to have to wait for the book for that one. Because I have a very spicy one about Rockwell. What'd you say, Prude?
I said, oh, the book is coming.
Oh, yeah. It's very spicy comparing Rockwell to Banksy. So, anyways, let's get to Super Chats. And I do appreciate when you go to, I believe on the National Futures website, you can also buy my artwork. But I have to sort something out anyways. So I do appreciate if you go to the Entropy link that's in the description, also in the comment section, because Entropy, of course, takes less of a cut than YouTube. So I do appreciate that. But let's go to the Entropy link first. Where is it? Let's go from small to big. So Sean Schaefer, for $3, we need a complete shutdown of vampire movies until we figure out what's going on. Well, I agree. I mean, yeah.
So true.
I feel like the early 2000s had more vampire movies, though.
Is that the case, or is it just overshadowed by the cultural impact of the young adult genre blowing up and Twilight being a thing?
Yeah, you're right. But then the zombies took over the 2010s. So
it kind of transitioned seamlessly from Twilight to like The Walking Dead.
Yeah, it did. Then Sean Schaefer again for $3. Has anyone seen the inside of Lex Friedman's mouth for a Sherm? It's obviously not in his Oh man, you guys are bad. I denounce.
We have to be
then we have
here, sir.
for $3, Dunk the short-legged man. That's a Pastor Manning. He mentions Pastor Manning. So short-legged Magda. For those who don't know, that's a Pastor Manning reference when he used to go after Obama. Dunk the short-legged Mac Daddy A Chin. For $3, Gio. Can I get a few seconds of you improvising the dialogue in the future Pastor Manning versus Andrew Cuomo mayoral debate? Also, could you respond to my Patreon DM regarding Discord access? Oh, sorry. Yes, I will respond. I will give you the Discord link. I'm very sorry. And if you are a member of Patreon, please DM me if you want to get into the Discord. There's a few guys like that really are, like Charlie Mackey and a few others that are keeping the Discord alive. But I definitely, in the new year, I want to focus more on artwork. I want to focus more on content. I want to focus less on hot takes. So, yeah, that's great. Now that I'm signed on to the Fume Gallery with Rachel Haywire, Alexander Adams is also signed on, so I will focus on more art in this new year. But I can't do an impression like, Andrew Cuomo is a long-legged Mac Daddy. He pimps Italian women and white women. I couldn't do it. Like, if I did a convincing Pastor Manning thing, I couldn't do it on YouTube. I couldn't. I used to love those clips because I remember Common Filth got me into Pastor Manning back in the day. Those were hilarious. Remember the asbestos underwear one? The flaming butthole? That was a great one. That one like mega viral back in the day, the flaming butthole. And Gio make me may real. Make Nani may it's Owen Zaleski. Geo's make Nani may real. Mock Nani Nana may real. What?
I think he's saying Geo make anime real.
Geo make anime real. Oh, there you go. Hello, gents. Happy first episode of the new year. I will make anime real. I hope that you like the first DHN of the new year. Here's to making more art, hopefully on an art stream. I wish I could have been to the New York event. Hopefully I can see you gents in person soon. GB. So thank you, Zaleski, for $5. And I heard the event was a success. So people read a lot of manifestos. I believe Orc Brand also read a manifesto last night. So we'll see. And Sean Schaefer for $5. We love our Leafs, don't we, folks? We want a big, strong neighbor up north, not another state. In all seriousness, if America and Canada are going to unify, it should be as brothers. Begs the question, has modernity killed any chance of ethnogenesis? Well, I don't think so. I think ethnogenesis will be a reality throughout human history, but, you know. What do you think, Prude?
You get me as soon as I'm taking medication.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. I don't know. I feel like what's his name? Was it George Grant?
Yeah.
I mean, his essay about about America and Canada, I think, is held up incredibly well. And I mean, once you started defining yourself, I mean, Trudeau's partially responsible for this by making the whole post-national nation thing. I mean, once you start defining yourself via negativa to another country and not because of ethnicity or traditions or particular culture or customs, it's kind of it is kind of over.
The Jordan Peterson definition of a country.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. No, that's true. And I hope things work out for us Leafs. I've sort of curbed my anti-Leaf talk, but I think I might bite the bullet one day, just interview someone like Fortnax, and because that was a great millennial space, I must say. So I highly recommend watching that one or listening to it.
They're all available on Rumble, and if you go to Woes' Telegram page, he's got them all on MP3.
I think you can download them off of Telegram. So
and if you just go to millennial.com, like they're all there.
Yeah. And Owen Zaleski again for $5. Also, great news, gents. I'm getting some commissions for my art. Oh, that's good. It feels great to work. Oh, what'd you say, Prude?
I said wonderful.
Yeah. And it feels great to work on art and get money for it. Oh, yeah, that is true. I'm working on making more as well. My goal is to put together a comic collection by the end of the year. God bless you both. Well, thank you. And he sends another $3. Also, Gio put a DHN art, and please make an art stream this year. It's been forever. Well, I am scanning a lot of my old artwork, so I might. I was thinking of doing a stream or doing a video where I just show a lot of my earliest abstract artwork. So I've been thinking about that. And let's get to the bigger super chats. So Sam153, our good friend, for $25. Happy New Year, gents. Hope you had a great Christmas and great to see DA back for 2025. The fire has risen early this year. Thank you, Sam153. And Charlie Mackey for $30. Good evening. I hope you're both doing well. I had to have some exposure to university writing, literature, and rhetoric people and rhetoric people recently, or rhetoric people. I kid, but it is worth even bothering to try and reclaim most. Sorry, he's asking a question. I kid, but is it worth even bothering to try and reclaim most public universities, or to encourage or let them collapse?
I imagine universities will have to either see a bailout, or a lot of them will probably collapse under their own weight in due time. I mean, this is a racket that can only go on for so long. But I mean, we live in a society where still the degree is necessary for most, if not all, applicable jobs, unless you're really willing to work your body to an early grave. But I mean, even if they want to reform them or whatnot, I think that the old strategy that even normie cons would argue about years ago was if you can keep your head down and get yourself into a good networked position. Your education's important, obviously, and especially if you're pursuing high sciences. But at the end of the day, all things with regard to employability afterwards is about who you know and the connections you make. Not to sound like a grind set hustle person, but really you do need to network while you're in college. Network as much as humanly possible. Go to every event, go to every friendly thing that you can, because that's really what's going to make it in the long run for your employability in the future.
Oh yeah. I wonder, Prude, if you could share, how could I do this? Did you tweet, see if you tweeted the new DA-chan.
Tag Gio in it. I do not avow. Well, it's not that I don't avow it. It's just go ahead and post it. I'll make sure that he sees the link. I'm not the biggest anime girl fan.
No, he DM'd me it. But if Zoe Zaleski, if you could tweet it out, then it would be much easier for me to display on screen.
You just open image in new tab, share screen, and then share the tab with the image.
Oh, okay, yeah, I could do that. Okay, I'll do that instead of revealing my
beautiful
DMs.
boomer. You beautiful boomer.
Oh my god. Okay, wait, I'm doing it right now. Okay, new window. Okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. Paste and go. And where is it? Open image, new tab. This is worth it, guys. Worth it. I'm very sorry. I'm delaying the super chats, but we love it. We love our fan art, folks. Where is it? Here we go.
And there you go. Somehow I get the vibes of 3 different groups all at once.
Yeah.
I think it's the little what is that called on a neckerchief?
I think it's a poppy. Or it could be an iron cross.
Oh, I'm thinking about like the slide. It looks like an iron cross.
Yeah.
What are they called? Just slides? Woggles?
I think so. I love how she has a
regionally accepted terms. Oh, okay, they're both. Okay, yeah. Slides. There you go. Cool. I'm brutally reminded of all of my scouting days, like a series of flashbacks.
You were a Boy Scout, Prude?
I was, and I'm a card-carrying Eagle Scout before it got incredibly woke and dead.
Oh, man. She kind of reminds me, do you remember Vivian James? The 4chan created Gamergate?
Yes.
Woman?
Yes.
Yeah. She kind of reminds me of Vivian James a little bit. But thank you, Lynn Zaleski. DA-chan. It's an iron cross from Prude's Frog. Oh, there you go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So thank you, Lynn Zaleski. And let's move on to the YouTube super chats. And how many are there? Oh, that's pretty good. I could not find your neoliberal catch-up on your Substack. Well, no, I didn't look. So. Yeah. So here we go for I love this name, by the way, Dyslexic Generator for $5.
That's a great name.
I love this name. If the USA annexed new territory, that increases the assets they can borrow against. Do you think this is a consideration in play?
Maybe. I guess it just entirely depends on how serious we want to pursue this line of logic. Yeah. I mean, like there's a America has to deal with its debt crisis. I agree wholeheartedly. Like that system can't go on forever. Depends on who wants to pay the piper first. Right. But like, I don't know. I don't know. I haven't looked at it that way, Dyslexic Generator, but that's a great question.
I think it's more of just a rhetorical bargaining chip. It's like an art of the deal thing on Trump's part, in my opinion. I think it's just to secure a bit more border security when Polyev gets in office. That's pretty much my... I don't know about the Greenland thing. The Greenland thing seems a bit more serious than the Canadian, obviously, than the Canadian or the Denmark thing. So, I don't know.
Well, Denmark has raised complaints saying that they're not going to let that happen. Yeah. I mean, if America pursues it, it's really interesting. But at the same time, I just don't. As I told Pat earlier today on his show, I said I think it's also important for us to realize that a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? A lot of hype over things that Trump says he's going to do, they don't come to fruition. But it's also to like distract the media while he does something else. I think it's important for us to maybe start looking at what he's not telling the people or what's happening behind the scenes.
Yeah. No, exactly. Like he's obviously not revealing his full hand, like why he's so fixated on this rhetorical thing, right?
Yeah.
So, that's a good analysis. And here we have Marbly for £9.99. Incredible. That's actually worth more than the USD and Canadian. Happy New Year's 2025 feels like the end of nothing ever happens. maybe I'm falling for it once again, but I also think something has changed. Are we going to see a history come back scenario? I guess he meant to say.
Well, history came back forever ago.
Yeah, true. But thank you, Marbly. I don't know. I think that the first 100 days of Trump's administration probably will be pivotal. Maybe not as pivotal as people think, but who knows what kind of weird black swan event will happen. I recently recorded the year in review with the War Report. Like, the episode came out yesterday. I highly recommend you watching all of it. It's a great episode. It's filled with laughs as well. But I think that definitely the war will go on for at least almost all of 2025. That's actually underselling it. I could easily imagine the war in Ukraine going on for another 2 years, in my opinion. But GSP, Goran on the War Report, my good friend, he had this great analysis that it really depends on the state of Iran, because the regime really has an ability to dick over the BRIC nations, especially China, and Russia, if they end up regime changing Iran somehow, because that would deny their easy access to all of those goods going to places like India and the Caucasus. So GSP goes in depth into it, so it's a great episode. But I think it depends on what happens in Iran, ironically enough. I don't see the Gaza thing having much legs still in 2025.
I think you're going to have to wait till 26 before we have and I mean, this is what a lot of people who work in procurement have told me, is that a lot of people are kind of skittish about what the heck is going to happen in 25. And they don't think that the dust will settle on virtually anything until first quarter 26.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I mean, I can almost guarantee that the war will go on for another year. I mean, as much as you want to say that I'm like, I'm a Russia shill. No, I think that despite all of the material limitations of the Ukrainian armed forces, I do think that the will to fight is still there. Obviously, lowering the drafting age to 18, having a lot of kids that are probably not 18 sign up, I think that is a bad sign. But overall, I don't see the Ukrainians giving up anytime soon. They have a will to fight, and they do have a patriotic sense of nationalism. Unless Trump does force Z-Man into the negotiating table, no, the war is going to go on for at least another year or 2 years. I don't see a dramatic collapse happening anytime soon when it comes to the Ukrainian armed forces. So, I mean, listen, I don't want the war to last another 2 years. If it was up to me, I wish the war would end, tomorrow, but it's a tragedy. So, yeah. Wow, I mean, I love how DA, we like to balance levity with black pills, you know what I mean? But Port Film Co-op, our good friend, for $2. Welcome back, dudes. Thank you, Port Film Co-op.
Thanks, man.
And for $5, my good friend VA Jackson. I've known him for many years now, but I can't display your comment because of a certain word that you use. Prude isn't wrong, and you have to keep. Okay, I say this, please, for those who may get the wrong impression. VA Jackson is a black man himself. Okay, so he's saying this. Prude isn't wrong about segregation, especially in education. The left destroyed Black America, and I hate them for it, but that makes me a house. I'm not going to finish that.
Oh, yeah. No, I get what you're saying, VA.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting how that dichotomy still gets used by leftists today. Yeah. I mean, I think it was on MSNBC earlier in 24, or was it in 23, where I think it was like Van Jones or someone they had on MSNBC. No, because he's on CNN. Yeah, I think it was someone on MSNBC that literally had said, like, it was literally a house versus the field hand situation. And no, literally that politics has been has been played out so much that dichotomy still gets used today. Like the specter of slavery ain't going away anytime soon.
Well, around the 1950s, black education rates were approximating white education rates. In fact, I believe they were doing actually better than certain white areas in the South. So, again, the Great Society just destroyed everything. And there actually were quite a bit of people that questioned that logic of do you know that filmmaker on YouTube, David Hoffman?
No, I don't.
He's like this old he's like this old boomer, right? But he was a filmmaker, and he's got like thousands of like journalist filmmaker footage. And he was like interviewing old African American people that were, in the South after the Jim Crow laws. And it was weird because they said that like the teachers that were in these all black schools, not to like, listen, not to, for those like optics check, I'm not condoning, segregation or whatever. Okay. But I think like if it's free association, if black people in America, in my opinion, if they want to have a private school that is, centered on them, I think that's perfectly fine. I think anyone should have the ability to have free association, to have a private school. That's my opinion on things. I don't know why that's controversial. You know what I mean? There's private religious schools, but there were people in this interview by David Hoffman that were saying that they felt like they were just a number in these desegregated schools, that they had to they had a different system of education. Whereas when they were in the all African American schools, that they had teachers that were local to the area, that they knew, that their families knew, and it was a different experience. Now, I think that if black people, like I said, if black people in America wanted to replicate a separate private school system that catered to their wants and interests and needs, I think that's perfectly fine. Like, I don't, like, you know what I mean? That's the most libertarian take I can have, is that I don't think why free association is a bad thing, why it's inherently racist. Like, there has been school districts. There was one in Georgia where they wanted an all black school, and you had like all these like liberals in the city council that like shot it down. I don't know. I think, if it can increase education outcomes among African Americans in these destitute places, then, I think that's a good thing. I don't see why free associate. You know what I mean, Prude? I hope I'm doing. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, and
Yeah.
In America, I think that my position is this: really, it's like there are three types of people that are really just have to deal with each other in America, and it should only be these three people: the white man, the black man, and the red man. And one of them should be the majority over the other two, just by the nature of our history and the consequences thereof. But like, we've permanently fucked that into oblivion anyway.
Yeah.
But no, I stand by what I said earlier.
Yeah, Malcolm X had a good point about things. I know that's like a wholesome Chungist 2010s right wing thing, but it is true. Anyways, so thank you, VA Jackson. That's a great super chat. And for $5 by Zed. How do I pronounce that?
It's a great question. Zood.
Zood,
like
yeah.
lewd.
Yeah, like lewd. Gio, check your email. I'm trying to pay for your review services, King. Yes, I did see an email. I will respond to you soon. It's just I've been busy with some stuff. But thank you, Zood, for the super chat. And another $5 by Bolero393, our good friend. Gio will be elevated to Minister of Hats when Trump annexes Canada.
I still think you should try and run for prime minister.
There you go. Did you know this Indian guy is running for prime minister?
I saw that. Is he Indian or Pakistani?
I don't know.
I mean, they're technically the same thing, subcontinentally speaking. But I mean, he came to Canada when he's like middle-aged, and now he's running for PM. Like, how do you guys not have I can't believe that like the Canadian, whatever your equivalent of a constitution is, doesn't have any kind of like citizenship requirements.
Yeah.
And if he's a citizen of Canada by the nature of showing up there while he's middle-aged, excuse me, and he can be the prime minister of your, like, what the, again, America has its plank in its own eyes that we must remove before I judge the speck in yours. But like, good God.
Well, Canadians, as Canada, I don't believe we don't have birthright prime ministerships because, of course, we've had prime ministers that were born in either France or Scotland or the UK. Well, UK in general. So, like, I mean, I believe Johnny McDonald, he was born in Scotland. Like before I sound like an ass, John A. MacDonald, I believe he was born in Scotland. Yeah, he was born in Glasgow. There you go.
Yeah, but that's like a totally different situation in comparison to
America.
now.
Yeah.
I mean, good Lord. I'm sure that guy doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell of becoming PM, but still.
No. I mean, can you imagine if they put Christy Clark there? Oh my God. They're probably I've heard from people they're probably going to go with Mark Carney, but I kind of don't want Mark Carney because then they would sell him as a serious candidate as opposed to Trudeau. So I kind of want Christy Clark in there, but then you never know. All these boomer libs are going to vote for whoever. So here we go by, oh my, this is a good one. For 1999 by Ethnarch for 1999. Can't watch now with my family. Here's some coin. Love you both. And he give the smooch via
Thank
Patrick
you,
Casey.
Ethnarch. We appreciate that Patrick Casey Schizophrenics Online smooch.
Yeah. But thank you so much, Ethnarch. I believe he gave another super chat too about his kid. And Matty Ice for $10. You have to realize I'm reading this to see if they're optical, right? Woke equals belief that there is an ethnic group entrenched in important places that with only a wink and a nod will forward their own interests. Discussed it with my super prog brother. Alarm bells went off. Lol. Well, yeah, I couldn't imagine that one. But, that's like every, I know like people, the specter of World War II and all that, but but when you really look at it, we kind of are the exception. Every society, every empire in human history. I mean, I don't listen, this is a cool take. I don't know why I'm saying this. It's self-evident. But every nation in human history, every empire has had a vested interest in their people, in who they are. Every nation in the world. You don't think the Chinese are interested in Han supremacy? Well, I know it's a bad example because James Lindsay.
Well, I mean, De Meistra's point was also very clear. Like, they had a vested interest in their citizenry, A, because they were one of them, and B, at any point in time, the king could be killed if he, was derelict of his duty.
Yeah. And the Juvenal talked about the ancient regime as well, and I mean, this is very basic stuff. And Ethnarch again for $4.99. Did you get my previous chat? Yes, we did. Yes, we did, Ethnarch. I'm here now. I had to beat my 4-year-old at Mario Kart.
You got to teach him humility young.
I think I played Mario Kart when I was younger. I had a GameCube. My favorite games were Super Mario Sunshine and Legends of Wrestling 2 because Legends of Wrestling 2 had an amazing soundtrack. That's how I heard the bands Trapped. Who else? Oh yeah, Saliva was in it. There was a bunch of great rock and new metal bands in that soundtrack. Do you guys remember Legends of Wrestling 2? I always used to play as Sabu, I think. Yeah, I always used to play as Sabu. Anyways, Robert Weisenfeld, our good friend, for $1.99. Happy New Year's from Lex Friedman's cousin, probably. Oh, that's bad.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's funny. Thank you, Robert Weisenfeld. And for $5 by Seasider. Remember, Gio, can you say whatever you want? You can say whatever you want while wearing a kufi. Yeah, that's very true. He's trying to goad me into saying
he's got the pass. He's got the hat.
Oh my God.
It's so true.
So true. And oh my God, Big Ben, our good friend, for $20. He just says big. Thank you, Big Ben, for the $20. That is a big donation. Much appreciated. Hope you guys show as much love to Prude next week. And, you guys keep us doing what we're doing. And we always love engaging with the audience.
And they are the third host of the show.
Yeah, exactly. And Robert Weisenfeld, our good friend again, for $4.99. Need to ask, it's in my DNA. What is the YouTube versus entropy cut? Okay, so I think YouTube takes 30%.
YouTube is 30, entropy is 15%.
Yeah. So
literally a 50% difference.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And Entropy will pay out every month if it's over $100 during the previous month.
Yeah. And Ethnarch for $1.99. How do we access the Telegram? Which Telegram?
And does he mean like your public Telegram, which is in the link below in the description, or does he mean the Patreon Discord?
Oh, if he means the Patreon Discord, I could send you the link. But if he meant, did he mean the OGC Telegram?
The OGC doesn't. Well, the OGC has a public-facing one, and then only a private one for the officers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the links are down below in the description for Gio's, or they should be. I didn't put this show together, but I mean, that's public-facing.
For yours as well. It's in your file.
Yeah. So, I mean, we both have it.
Yeah. I need to grow my Telegram. It's like not growing. I don't know. It's weird. Telegram's weird, but that's where I post all my spicier takes. So I highly recommend signing on to my Telegram. Oh my God, here we go. Another one. Bolero 393 for $5. Gio, the First Amendment is coming to the Great White North during this administration, during the third times the charm U.S.-Canada War of Aggression. The U.S.-Canadian War of Aggression. Oh, yeah. It was War of 1812.
A lot of people making references to the late 90s movie Canadian Bacon.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Canadian. Oh, I thought he meant like the Fenians, but like, no, he means like the War of 1812, then Canadian Bacon, and now Trump waging war on Canada. That's very. Oh my God. And finally, Ethnarch for $4.99. How do you neither of you know how to pronounce Ethnarch? What WTF?
I heard Ethnarch, so I mean, if I got it wrong, then forgive me.
Oh, is it like an Anarch, like Ernst Younger? Sorry, I thought is it Ethnarch or Ethnarch? I'm terrible with I mean,
either way, we're gonna screw up pronunciations either which way. Ethnarch, okay.
Ethnarch, okay.
Right.
No, thank you, Vingol. Chris Ostler, what's your view on Thomas Carlyle's? I haven't read Carlyle's Defense of Slavery, but I think
I haven't not read it either.
Did he say like it's inherent to the human condition, something like that? I forget.
I haven't read it. I wouldn't know.
I've read a bit of his essay on heroism, and I read another one that Solion recommended. I believe it's his letter to a young man or something like that. Or his letter on beauty. I think it was his letter on beauty. Ethical narcos out here. But no, I have not read his defense of slavery. So next week we will be on Prude's channel.
Most likely on Thursday.
Maybe on Thursday.
I'm out of town due to work-related things. I cannot disclose where, when, or why. But I am gone Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So I'm out of town for those 3 days. Nothing for me. I hope to get a couple of essays out in between that time frame. I have one I need to finish because I promised Schwab I would finish it soon. So I've got Schwab on my ass. So I've got to definitely finish it. Other than that, our Do You Even Read series is out soon, and then we'll be live next week on Thursday, God willing.
Oh, an ethnarch is a ruler of a people or a province, as in part of the Roman Byzantine Empire.
Yes.
As a ruler of a people, tribe, or nation, especially in the province or kingdom. Oh, there you go.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Do you have an entropy? No, we do not. So, like I say, hopefully by the weekend, I will get a amazing aesthetic-orientated, art-orientated, content-minded out. And I'm working with Kat this weekend as well. I continue to work with Matthew on editing the book. So, and like I say, check out the War Report episode and all that great stuff. So, this has been a great stream. So we'll see. Me and Prude will talk about what we're going to do next week. So thank you all. As we say, God bless. Goodbye. Keep strong, my woke brothers and sisters. And too sweet.
See you, gents.